All right, good morning. This is the Gary Sansing Public Forum, February 16th, 2023. The Gary Sansing Public Forum is intended for matters not included on the agenda for the upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting. Citizens wishing to address items on the agenda should sign up to speak to such item at the regular Board of County Commissioners meeting. Speakers shall refrain from abusive or profane remarks, disruptive outbursts, protests, or other conduct which interferes with the orderly conduct of the Gary Sansing Public Forum. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman to allow sufficient time for all speakers. At the chairman's discretion, the Gary Sansing Public Forum may end 5 minutes prior to the scheduled start of the upcoming Board of County Commissioners meeting to allow the meeting to commence on time. Our first speaker is Chris Kerb, followed by Teresa Blackwell.
Good morning. Chris Kerr, Flood Defenders. Last board meeting on the 2nd, I spoke about maintaining the vest, but I didn't get to finish it, so I'm going to go back to it. Deferred maintenance can lead to flooding lawsuits on grounds of negligence. It results in increased flooding, flood damages, and increased costs to fix. Increasing your budgets to include maintenance should be a goal for the county. Right now, the county has approximately 700 county ponds, and I believe y'all contracted out pond maintenance last year, a couple of crews. But wondering how that's going for you. But I know one pond, Windrose Subdivision Pond 295, next to the concrete weir, the berm's blown out, and that needs to be fixed. It's been that way since Sally. Whether a pond is public or private, deferred maintenance has negative impacts to the public good. Your code enforcement department has a monumental task trying to get all these private ponds taken care of. One of those ponds is Perdido Estates and the drainage in Perdido Estates. And I do understand private versus public, but I've seen a shift in policy regarding private ponds and private drainage over the years. Around 2018, you had 204 private ponds. And I mentioned that time frame, 2017, 2018, because that's when several ponds were cheated to the county. In Bristol Creek, ponds 18, 19, 20, and 21, Weatherford 316, and Treetop Terrace. I won't go into how we tried to fix the problem with the cheated ponds going to the county, but private ponds and private drainage systems have emerged for county action and the public good over the years. For example, Lake Charlene Outfall now under construction, Grand Lagoon Lake System, Crescent Lake Dam, Willowbrook Dam. These are all private and based off of emergency response to major flood events. We had to step in and fix those. So there is a point where private facilities need to be looked at from a standpoint of the overall public good. I can name a few more. We actually purchased a private pond in 11 Mile Creek Basin area, as Ashbury Hills Pond. So I'm really hoping to see something done on Perdido Estates. My Flood Defenders in Perdido Estates couldn't be here this morning, but I have been in contact with them a little bit. Part of a good
Chris, will you go ahead and finish up?
I'll just email this to you, but thank you.
Appreciate it. Our next speaker is Teresa Blackwell. Teresa, is this something that's on the agenda for today?
No, this is a separate issue. You'll see. I have to say yes. But anyway, the reason I'm up here is that this item that you're referring to was not on the agenda originally, and so there may be some speakers here for Beulah who plan to speak now. So either we should let them speak now if they can't stay for the meeting, or move that item up. Because that item was added online, and we didn't have notice of that until, I didn't know about it until 10 o'clock or so last night. So just, have mercy on somebody who drove here from Beulah if they are here. So I don't know all these faces to know who's here. So that was it. And here there's good news this morning. So hallelujah. So talk to you later.
Our next speaker will be Robert Kleinschmidt. I can't pronounce it, Robert.
Yes, sir. Robert Kleinschmidt. That's pretty good.
Kleinschmidt. Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it.
I live over off of Lakewood Avenue, which is, south side of Bayou Chico. Just wanted to, address you guys. We're still having a problem with the derelict vessels, and of course, there's a lot of sunken vessels, and we're really trying to make an effort to clean things up. And, I think at the Marine Board Advisory meeting, I think they had a couple nights ago, one of the suggestions was to come over here and let you guys know they need maybe there's some legislature needed to help clean up these vessels, and the ones that come in and stay for, a few weeks, that's great. But we got people bringing boats in, dumping them off. The wind blows, they blow up against property, damage property, they blow over the shipyard, damage shipyard boats. It's just an ongoing problem, and some have mentioned a mooring field, and just wanted to put this out there that a mooring field doesn't solve the problem. It actually would make it worse. It would create more boats, but those guys who don't follow rules, they're not going to pay to be in a mooring field. They're just going to push outside and cause more damage. So when that comes up, or if it comes up, that's certainly a big concern over there. And again, just want to thank Mike Kohler in our District 2 has seemed to see him at all these meetings and appreciate all of the effort that you're putting in and helping us out and paying attention to us. So we appreciate that. But that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker, Aaron Schneider.
Good morning, y'all. My name is Aaron Schneider. Just wanted to say that all of us as adults, knowing and believing that God exists and knowing that Jesus is Lord, that we have been really lazy in our lives with protecting the children of this county and protecting children in general. So under our watch here in Pensacola, as Christians, we have allowed an abortion clinic to remain open for years and years and years without publicly saying anything about it or intervening or making our names known that we hate this child sacrifice. And make no mistake about it, God explains that children, He knits them together in their mother's wombs, that before they were formed, He knew them. And so God's the author of life. He created each one of us in the womb. And so for us to allow this slaughter, this murder of people that's happening now, to go on and not do anything about it is laziness. It's the same thing with our Escambia County school libraries having these wicked, perverse books. And I'm telling you, it's one thing to think about this in your head. If you look at these books and you're not sickened, I would really wonder whether you have a moral compass. These are children's books that are talking about people having intimate sex with each other. I'm not going to give that to my kid. It's demented. And your mind would have to be darkened not to recognize that. It's a place of education to prepare them for the future. We don't prepare children for the future by letting them read stories about people having sex with each other. This is talking about masturbation, all kinds of disgusting, sick stuff. They're not children's books. So Jesus said in Luke 17:1-2, and He said to His disciples, temptations to sin are sure to come, but woe to the one through whom they come. It would be better for him if a millstone were hung around his neck and he were cast into the sea, that he should cause one of these little ones to sin. So I'm asking if you all would please start speaking up to the school board and the superintendent about this. There's some meetings coming up for the school board over these books this next week on Monday and Tuesday. I have written out something I would like to give you, and I apologize. I only have 4 copies because I'm scrambling.
All right, thank you, sir.
Can I give these anywhere?
Yeah, somebody will take them right there. Tim will take them.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Josh. Aaron. Next speaker will be Josh Luther.
Good morning. Today I'll be reading from Proverbs 28 and 29, and I just want to remind y'all that These are not the words of man, these are the words of God, and you take them lightly at great peril. And when it speaks of law, God's not speaking about the law man has made up. He's speaking about his law that's found in his word that all rulers should be very familiar with. The Lord says, "The wicked flee when no one is pursuing, but the righteous are bold as a lion. Those who forsake the law praise the wicked, but those who keep the law strive with them. Evil men do not understand justice, but those who seek the Lord understand all things. Better is the poor who walks in his integrity than he who is crooked, though he be rich. He who turns away his ear from listening to the law, even his prayer is an abomination. He who leads the upright astray in an evil way will himself fall into his own pit, but the blameless will inherit good. The rich man is wise in his own eyes, but the poor who has understanding sees through him. When the righteous triumph, there is great glory, but when the wicked rise, men hide themselves. He who conceals his transgressions will not prosper, but he who confesses and forsakes them will find compassion. How blessed is the man who fears always, but he who hardens his heart will fall into calamity. A man who is laden with the guilt of human blood will be a fugitive until death. Let no one support him. He who walks blamelessly will be delivered, but he who is crooked will fall all at once. He who trusts in his own heart is a fool, but he who walks wisely will be delivered. He who gives to the poor will never want, but he who shuts his eye will have many curses. When the wicked rise, men hide themselves, but when they perish, the righteous increase. A man who hardens his neck after much reproof will suddenly be broken beyond remedy. When the righteous increase, the people rejoice, but when a wicked man rules, people groan. A man who loves wisdom makes his father glad, but he who keeps company with harlots wastes his wealth.
Can you go ahead and finish up? Your time's up.
The righteous is concerned for the rights of the poor. The wicked does not understand such concern.
Thanks, Josh. Our next speaker will be Stan McDaniels.
My name is Stan McDaniels, 4511 Charmont Way. I am here to let you guys know I do not consent to this form of government, and I move to abolish it. Thank you.
Thanks, Stan. Our next speaker will be Charles Luther. I guess they didn't approve either.
Good morning. So where to begin? My brother Aaron spoke of the vile books within the school system in the libraries there. Just to remind you again, nothing has been done regarding the, it's pretty amazing how our chairman continues to frolic behind the desk while people are speaking. We thought this was an uninterrupted time for the public. Last week behind the desk also, the microphone was taken to mention the slave trade. Let me just remind everyone, it was Christians, true Christians, that abolished the slave trade, and we thank God for that, because we think all men are created equal, and that, in fact, even multiple races is a lie. There's only one race, and that's the human race, and we just thank God that the truth can be known even in a dark world. But there is certainly something of ethnic prejudice and the history of the West. Let me remind you, Margaret Sanger, the founder of Planned Parenthood, said that blacks were weeds that needed to be extinguished. And that's a very easy quote to find, but certainly not repeated much, because Planned Parenthood is so touted by the leftists, and these days even, sadly, some on the other side of the aisle. Well, it is sad. There were, last year, 2021 when they got the results in. I believe it was 2021. There were more black children aborted in New York City than were born in New York City. In our state alone, so many black children are murdered in the womb. Non-Hispanic, this is from the CDC, the National CDC, I quote, non-Hispanic black women had the highest abortion rate nationally. This is speaking nationally. 23.8 abortions per 1,000 women, and a ratio 386 abortions per 1,000 live births. So nationally in 2021, over 1/3 of the number of live births, that would have been also those aborted. What a sad thing. Well, listen,
Sorry to interrupt you. You got 3 more seconds.
to speak up is so important. May God help you, men. We pray for you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Our next speaker will be Larry Downs Jr.
Larry Downs Jr. Plumbing, LLC, because fecal matters. All right. You're going to have to hear that for the rest of my life. All right. Here we go. One is the Marine Advisory Board that y'all appoint people to. I just went to a meeting, and I don't know if y'all know it, if y'all have seen the video yet or not, but they're advising our citizens to relentlessly contact the sheriff's department, call them every day, keep putting pressure on them to go violate other people's rights. That's freaking absolutely ludicrous. Call them every day. The sheriff's department's got a boat. Make them go out and do inspections every day on them, every week. They're not good people. That's what the chair said. I hate to paint with a broad brush, but he did. These are people who have every right to be there than anybody else. And then they're always begging the government for more government. If you can just take over that harbor and you could make $20 a night, government. Yeah, you could make $20 a night. Keep these people from anchoring unless they're abiding and obeying, doing everything that the big daddy government says. Y'all need to get a handle on these boards because they're using other departments. They're weaponizing them, or at least verbally insinuating that. Now, let's move on to something else here. I want to know who all up here has had their COVID vaccines, because y'all push them. You push them. You tell people get vaccinated. I want y'all to be proud. Be proud. Show your vaccine cards. Let other people know how many vaccines you got of this COVID magic juice, because that's how you get more people vaccinated. Don't be a hypocrite. Don't be a hypocrite. Practice what you preach. So show people how many did you get? 5? I'm just wanting to identify some slow people. That's what I want. 1's not good. 2's not good. Oh, it was good. Now it's not good. 3, 4, 5. Is it about the money? Go to CVS. Go to any pharmacy. And you're going to see just tons and tons of this stuff. I have little workers in there give me this stuff. Look at this. Look at this. The vaccines you need all in one place. 15 for the whole family. Just get them, get them, get them. Meanwhile, the autism rates are going up on children. Yeah, up 16%. 16%. But it doesn't have nothing to do with the vaccines, even though there is absolutely no studies that say it is or isn't. Adios.
All right, Larry. I'll let you know when we get those new boosters.
I want that vaccine card.
Rodney Jones, next speaker. There is a lot of autism.
Hey, good morning. I came here this morning just to figure out when you guys are going to release the community partners money for agencies who didn't apply to Scamming Children Trust or who were not considered, given they do not have a non-solicited proposals component. So those particular agencies who applied for Escambia dollars, when would they be released?
It'll probably be back on the agenda pretty soon. Right now, I don't know what the list, but I'm very disappointed. I sit on the Children's Trust Board, and the allocation of the funds to exempt 32501, 32503, and 32505 is a travesty, and so that's going to be it's going to be a real discussion at our next board meeting. So I appreciate what you're doing. Unfortunately, the very people that it was intended for probably didn't get funded.
Didn't get the funding.
Yeah, and trust me, Escambia County didn't get funded either. Thanks, Rodney.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Cicely Campbell.
Good morning. I know that Beulah may not be very well represented this morning. We were uncertain about the procedure with whether something about it being on the agenda. So thank you for letting us speak. I am one of those that had followed very carefully from the very earliest, some of the earliest meetings that Commissioner Prakash had at Beulah Elementary. The only person that I knew at one of those meetings, some of those meetings were Will Taylor, because there were people from all over everywhere. And I know that you've really tried hard to build a basis of support with, from the very beginning, of people who are knowledgeable. And we were so pleased to see everything follow through from the earliest meetings, the earliest little town meetings that we had with other things happening in Beulah. And I was one of those that was thrilled, absolutely thrilled to see that we had a plan, there was a compromise, and we were going forward. I'm very concerned about whether or not the county commission is going to abide by the plan, the master plan that we had agreed on. Yes, the gray section right up there in the far northwest corner, we have one, probably the longest stretch of property bordering the flying field. It's a little over 1,000 feet, and that's gray, and it's in light industrial. I don't have a problem with that. My big concern is that all of us, the main thing we wanted when we knew going into this plan and this compromise plan was that we would have a town center, and that maybe someday my grandchildren might want to come live in my house because they would not have to drive 30 minutes to go to soccer or football or ballet. And there's so many wonderful things that could be done with public amenities there, and I am very concerned that everyone cheering for D.R. Horton buying the whole land, when I don't see them as the kind of company that would be capable, have the experience to build a town center,
Mr. Chairman,
to give us all of the
I might.
amenities that we want.
That's on the agenda, so.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, but I want to say, thank you for coming down here, Cece. I think there's some new things hot off the press happening, and I think you're going to be very, very happy. We received a $35 million all-cash offer from a company that specializes in mixed-use development. That happened just this morning. Just this morning at 6 a.m. I'm assuming, Wes, that's going to be on our agenda.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, Commissioner McGott, I should not have let you spoke into the item that's on the agenda.
But that's okay, I want to clarify.
So I apologize.
Okay.
I'm sorry,
Thank
but you can speak.
Cece, please stay at the podium, because I want to make sure that you hear me. We're going to look at this, but I think it's a huge win. It certainly encapsulates your concerns, my concerns. Remember, I'm the commissioner that never wanted one residence on that
Right.
field, not one.
Yes, sir,
I
I
wanted it to be
understand.
developed for the reasons we purchased it, which was building good jobs for the whole community. There was a compromise. A lot of people disagreed, gnashing of teeth. We got the master plan. The great news about this $35 million all-cash offer is they're going to abide by the master plan. They're going to work with Triumph to get more jobs. And they have experience doing this. Look at the offer letter. It's on my blog right now. Go look at it. It's incredible. It's a huge day for Beulah. When you talk about infrastructure, the county is doing Frank Reeder Road right in front of your house.
Right.
It's going to be awesome. We're going to have a light there. We're going to have an interchange fully funded in the 10-year plan. Governor
Yes.
DeSantis just announced we're going to 6-lane the interstate right there, all the way to Pine Forest,
Yes.
redo it. There's a lot of great news coming. So today is a day to be excited about some great things happening in Beulah, Escambia County, and this region. So I wanted to make sure, I know there were some people pushed back on D.R. Horton. I'm not going to say anything negative about them, They gave an offer, and that spurred some additional interest, and we have a much better offer.
Yes,
That's my
praise
opinion.
God.
So
we heard
read
that there
it,
was
and I think you're going to be
we heard that
happy.
there was a new offer, and that's my,
Sister,
that's my concern.
Yeah, thank you. You can sign back up at the item. Our next speaker will be Sean Youm.
All right, thank you, folks, for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to take this opportunity to remind everyone, as a government employee, a public civil officer, that there's an oath of office that you've taken, an oath to the U.S. Constitution and to the state constitution. So I have something I'm going to read from. I'm not sure if anybody's read it here at the on the other side of the podium. It's from a pastor named Matthew Troella. He has written an excellent book for those who are in civil office. It's called The Duty of Lesser Magistrates. The word duty is not often mentioned in our nation today. The path of least resistance is the path that most follow in our day and in the realm of public office. Commitment is a virtue long lost on Americans. We see this in our public office where we go along to get along. We can also look at our nation and the rate of divorce that's happening around us, that there's no standard. So duty is that which a person owes to another, or by which a person is bound to another by any natural, moral, or lawful obligation to perform. Duty is any action required by one person's position or by moral or lawful considerations. As a magistrate, you folks that are civil officers or civil employees, you are clothed with power, whether it be executive, legislative, or judicial. And as the title implies, a lesser magistrate is one who possesses lesser power than a higher magistrate. So, for example, a county executive possesses lesser power than a state governor. The position of a lesser magistrate can be obtained by election or appointment. The primary duty of a lesser magistrate regarding the doctrine of the lesser magistrates is threefold. First, they are to oppose and resist any laws or edicts from the higher authority that convene or contravene the law or the word of God. Second, they are to protect the person, liberty, and properties of those who reside within their jurisdiction from any unjust or immoral laws or actions by the higher authority. Thirdly, they are to implement any laws or decrees made by the higher authority that violate the Constitution and, if necessary, resist these.
Thank you. Would you go ahead and finish up? Your time is up.
Okay. So
Thank you.
I have a copy of this book available for any of you who wish to follow the Bible and what God says. It's a good
We
guide.
appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
That ends our public forum. We're going to get ready for the Board of County Commissioners regular meeting, February 26, 2023, 9 o'clock a.m. Are we ready? Well, great. Let's move right on up. We got an aggressive schedule. Looks like we'll have some speakers and want to get people out of here on time. Please turn your cell phone to vibrate, silence, or the offsetting. The Board of County Commission allows any person to speak regarding the item on the agenda. The speaker is limited to 3 minutes unless otherwise determined by the chairman to allow for sufficient time for all speakers. Today, the invocation will be brought by Pastor Antoine Brown of Activate Church. Pastor.
Let's pray. Bow our heads. Father, in Jesus' name, we thank you, Father, for who you are. It's in you that we live and move and have our being. Father, we thank you for this beautiful day. We thank you for this opportunity to come together to form strategy, to maximize and to maintain those things that are effective, and to purge and to prune those things that need work. Father God, we ask you for wisdom today. Your word says wisdom is the principal thing, therefore we ought to get it with all our getting understanding. You also tell us how to get wisdom. You said, if any man lacks wisdom, let him ask of God, who gives to all men liberally. Father God, we ask you for your wisdom today. We lift up these commissioners who stand before us, Father God. Father, I pray a special blessing over their families, Lord God. Father, infuse them with righteousness today. Your word says that when the righteous rule, the people can rejoice. So, Father, we ask you, Father God, that righteousness dwell with them, that it speaks through them, Lord God. That, Father God, that their minds are infused and their hearts are infused and meshed with yours today, Lord God, as we proceed. Father, we thank you, Father God, that only the plans of the righteous will prevail today. Plans of peace, plans of prosperity, plans of purpose, and plans for your expected end. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Pastor Brown. Commissioner Berry, would you lead us in the pledge?
Yes, sir. Please join me as we recite the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, thank you, Pastor Brown, and we look forward to getting out to Activate. Since you moved out on 9 Mile Road, we plan to come visit with you sometime. Thank you so much. Are there any items to be added to the agenda?
No, sir.
Commissioner Bagash.
I move that we adopt the agenda as amended. No, nothing. I'm sorry, I have nothing.
But you can move it. I'm ready. No one else has anything. We'll entertain that motion.
Second.
Please vote. Thank you. I like it, Commissioner Bagash. You're ready.
Mr. Chairman, can we do a hand vote on this one? Not everyone's logged in yet.
Okay. That passes 5 in favor. Don't worry, it's difficult to get logged in sometimes. Commissioner's forum, Commissioner Bagash.
Well, as we alluded to a little bit, I think some kudos are in order for our staff that have worked very hard, and also our economic development folks, Danita Andrews, Scott Luth, Florida West, PEDC, Commissioner Berry and myself, we've played a part, and frankly, some credit to Navy Federal Credit Union, some credit to Jim Cronley and the years he's devoted to OLF 8 and the work that he's done, the tremendous amount of work that he's done. He's really probably the father of the project. All of that, and then the years and years of struggle working with the Department of Defense to get the property, and then working through a very contentious master plan process, all to get us to the point where we are this week with a really good problem. 2 all-cash offers, one for $33 million, one for $35 million, one of which seems to check every box imaginable. Going to comport with the master plan, going to work with Triumph to get good jobs out there, which is what I always wanted, which is what we need in this county to keep our best and brightest and our graduates here after they graduate. If they want to stay, we got to have good jobs for them. It checks that box, and this is a company that does this. They're doing it right now, and if you read the offer letter, the letter of intent, it lists the types of projects they're doing, big projects, big footprints. So hats off to Wes Marino, Debbie Bowers, everyone from the staff, everyone involved in this effort, those who are no longer here with us that have moved on. Not that way, but like moved on to different jobs. It's a big day for Escambia County, and it's something to really be celebrating. You know, no one ever gets 100% of what they want in this business. Nobody does. Whether we're talking local government, Congress, the president, nobody ever gets 100% of what they want. Grover Robinson never got 100% of what he wanted. He's here today. But today is a day where we find a compromise, and we have the opportunity to grasp a victory and to accept the compromise, embrace it, something that makes this community transformational and brings a profit to this county and these taxpayers of $21 million. So I'm using some time today, Mr. Chairman, because I want to talk about this. This is a big deal, and a lot of people did a lot of hard work. A lot of people took a lot of elbows, punches, uppercuts, because we were told we were stupid. You're crazy. You're going to acquire this property. You're going to lose money. We're going to make money, and we're going to turn this community on overdrive. We're going to turn up the volume to hyperdrive, and we're going to have great jobs, great amenities. I'll finally have a restaurant in Beulah. I've lived there 20 years that I can go sit down and have a glass of wine and a steak. Right now, there's nothing. Still, we got the roller burritos at Circle K. We finally got a Pizza Hut and a McDonald's. I want more, and we're going to get more, and jobs. So big day today. Stay tuned later for our discussion, but I want to thank staff and all the people. We really up here, we stand on the shoulders of giants and people who made this happen. Today is going to be a big day in Escambia County, so thank you for that. And then I would be remiss if I did not mention Joy Jones, Chris Phillips, the engineering staff, Horace Jones, his team, and all the folks who have worked with me together to solve a really, really difficult problem with a large subdivision in my district. And there was a lot of gnashing of teeth, and there was a lot of anger. But when everyone sits down in a room and we use a little logic and common sense, we can come to an appropriate resolution, which I'm very, very happy. Wes, thank you for your crew. Thank you to Chavers Construction. Chavers Construction went out there like that, got it done, and we solved a problem. So things like that, they don't make the news because they're not real sexy. People don't care. But it's a big deal for residents, and we solved a problem. We mitigated a problem, and we came to a compromise that I think works for everyone. And I could not have done it without the support of staff. So Joy Jones, Chris Phillips, Wes Marino, thank you for your help with that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner McGosh, I can tell you're pretty excited. It looks like we'll probably have a lunch party, and maybe you can get a steak and some wine if we get out of here on time. That's tonight. Well, it's going to be my goal to get you a steak and wine. Certainly, I did not see the former mayor and former Commissioner Grover. You've changed a little bit, Mayor Robinson. So I've never seen you dressed down in your golf outfit and with hair on your face. So I was not ignoring you, just did not see you. So thank you for being here. We certainly appreciate it. And Jeff, I would add just one thing. You mentioned Jim Cronley. I think that when people talk about just good government and serving, for someone to get no ROI, Jim gave a lot to get nothing, and to have vision 30 years ago. Yeah, so he did. I mean, kudos to Jim and to Shirley. Commissioner Kohler.
Good morning, Chairman. I'm very happy for you today, Commissioner Burgash. Yeah, I am. I think it's going to be a good day for the board. I want to put a couple thank yous out there this week. John Robinson, thanks for the animal service. Excuse me. I really appreciated the site visit. You have a good team there. Also, Liz, I sat down with several of the staff this week. I just want to thank them. Jeff, I want to tell you, I got calls from your coffee with the commissioner. I didn't know you were on board with term limits, but I'm glad you are, if you really are. It's American Heart Month. I went out and got my BLS. You guys need to take care of yourself. Thanks, Eric. Tell Cliff thank you. It was complete professionalism out there. You have a great crew, the county can be happy of the folks that are getting trained out there to help save lives. I want to say one thing. Many may not know this, but 2 mayors ago, Mayor Hayward, he's a friend of mine, and he always used to joke with me about this pin, and I never wore it. Well, I called him this morning and I said, I'm going to wear it for you. He gave it to me at a political function in honor of his dad that passed away this week, and the funeral's tomorrow. So, Ashton, I know you're out there. My wife and I, our thoughts are with your family.
What time is that funeral tomorrow?
I think it's at 11.
11. Yeah, I've spoken to Mayor Hayward multiple times, and his dad was a dear friend of my dad and a dear friend of my family and a dear friend of mine. So our condolences are out to Ashton and Ann and the entire family. Commissioner Bender.
I don't have anything for the good of the today, sir. I mean, we're just too excited.
Jeff,
Yeah, we're excited. You got to get
Jeff
you some
used all
steak.
your time. Jeff used all your time. That's too bad.
We're yelling all time to Jeff today.
All right. Very briefly, I want to certainly echo the sentiments to Ashton. That was, you hear that people aren't doing well, you hear that they're sick, but you never think that that's, that things are that imminent, even when you hear that hospice has come in, you never think that it's that imminent. So, yeah, certainly thoughts and prayers to he and his sisters and his whole family. I want to congratulate the Tate boys basketball. So they leave later this week to play in the quarterfinals. It's the first time we've had playoffs out of Tate basketball in some number of years. So that's exciting, and that's a big deal. They had a winter sports pep rally at Tate yesterday, kind of recognizing the kids getting ready to leave and travel for the playoffs, which is, we've had a few of those over the years with football. We've had a lot with baseball, and it was great to see the basketball kids get the opportunity to travel and get some recognition that doesn't always come at Tate.
Absolutely, Commissioner Berry, and I'm a big supporter of basketball. Last night, had the opportunity to spend the evening at Pensacola State with Chipola, playing Pensacola State, and just what an awesome amount of talent we have. And unfortunately, girls or boys basketball doesn't get the recognition that it deserves. But congratulations to all of our teams, particularly even Jay going to the next level, Washington High School going to the next level. And so we've had some kids who've done some great work. I do want to take a moment As you and Commissioner Kohler said, to wish our condolences and prayers to the Hayward family, actually the first mayor of the city of Pensacola and a childhood friend in Ashton. And so we certainly plan to be there with the family on tomorrow. But also, a longtime ECAT driver who dedicated his life to public transportation, Emmitt Smith. Many of us know his son, Emmitt Smith, the leading NFL rusher, but Puddin', as we call him, Emmitt died a few days ago, and so our condolences, prayers are out, and we're looking forward to working with ECAT and all of his friends who drove buses to do a grand celebration for Emmitt and his unfortunate passing. And so I spoke with Emery and Marcia and Emmitt on yesterday, and our prayers are with them, and certainly, Wes, we want to make sure we get our ECAT staff all up to speed. I know that he was very, very close to Willie Carter and many other drivers after driving 35, 40-plus years. He spent a long time here serving in Escambia County, so our prayers are with the Smith family.
Mr. Chairman, if you know, as you continue those conversations, if you think some type of proclamation would be in order, you know, Emmitt certainly had the opportunity to not work for some number of years.
Absolutely.
For, you know, probably post about 1990-ish.
Yeah.
But he chose to, and I know he attended some board meetings over the years. I believe he came one time even when Emmitt was here speaking about something. So, you know, that's a special type of person that continues in public service when they don't financially have to. You know, it's like, you know, hitting the lottery and continuing at your work, you know, for years and years afterwards. That's not a lot of people that are going to do that. So I think that spoke a testament to, you know, to he and his character and his nature and his humble nature. And, you know, even on a daily, you know, at his daily work, or if we see him in Smokies or what have you, you would still never know that he was Emmitt's father.
No.
If you didn't know who he was.
So, and Steve, you know, the great thing, and we got to move hastily, but Emmitt's still living in where I grew up in Morris Court, still living in the same house that they were living in before Emmitt became an NFL superstar. And his mother, Mary, who passed, was my son's daycare teacher. So our prayers are there. And Emmitt, like so Willie Cott and so many of our drivers who have been there 40 years, they don't drive because they have to. They drive because they want to, because they see it as their service and their ministry. And so we're just glad that we have so many great employees like that. And I do see David Bear here, and we know that his father, Lewis, who all of us know, has been a little ill. So David, please pass on that we're all praying for Lewis, and what a great Escambia County, what a great Floridian. And so goodwill, Godspeed, and we hope that we have Lewis back here in the chamber real soon, chewing us out. So please let him know. All right, with that,
Mr. Chairman,
go ahead, Wes.
Take a quick minute. Just want to thank Miss Sharon Pitts for her service to Escambia County. Sharon Pitts will be moving on. She's moving to Omaha, Nebraska to be with her kids, grandkids and kids. And Sharon, I just want to say thank you. So when I stepped into this role, you were a big help. You've been any success I've appreciated, you've been a big part of that. And I think your directors that you support and the staff would echo the same. You've been a great presence and a good help, and wish you the best as you move on. So thank you.
Mr. Chair.
Sharon, I certainly appreciate you, because when I do my morning walks, I can never get in the building unless you or Angela let me in. So I do appreciate you always being to work early.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to add something to that. Sharon, thank you for all the help you've given me. And when Debbie needed help, you were always there, and we really appreciate that. And I just want to point out, 2 of my sons live in Omaha. I don't get the attraction. I've been there. It's nice. But they did report to me today, they're in a blizzard right now. It's snowing, and it's 70 degrees here. So just, you know.
Mr. Chairman, I want to say something too. Being the new guy here, I couldn't have had more of a warm welcome than from Sharon getting us on board. And I mean that, Sharon, you really did help us. And I really can't thank you enough.
Sharon, go ahead. You can come to the podium if you like.
No, I have to show. He said he didn't get the attraction.
Oh. Yeah. Oh. What Jeff meant was he sent his children, and that's why he has no attraction, because he got his children out the house. I mean, who would follow their children? I mean,
got it.
who would be attracted to where they send their children? Unless they want to be broke. No. Yeah, no move to Tallahassee. No, I won't be in Tallahassee. Congratulations, Sharon, and we do appreciate your spirit and your goodwill. And we wish you the best of luck, and just we can do something here in Escambia County, let us know. The board will accept the...
Move the proclamations.
Thank you.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor. I don't think she's here. Audrey, we're not presenting that, are we? Are we presenting the proclamation? She is here? Okay. Juanita Lindsay is here? Okay.
Yes. Yes, Juanita, please. Now, Juanita, Commissioner May doesn't do many of these, so you should be flattered.
Whereas Juanita Lindsay has created an event to honor and uplift women of color in Pensacola, Florida, with Black Girl Magic Awards in honor of Black History Month. Whereas the Black Girls Magic Award recognizes local women of color within our community that rarely receive the gratitude for their hard work. It serves as an event that encourages women of color to never give up on their hopes and dreams and motivates women to become minority business owners. Whereas the Black Magic Girls Award inspires Black women to achieve their full potential, gaining new skills, continuing educating themselves, whereas Ms. Lindsay wants women of color to step out of their comfort zones and be the best versions of themselves and empower each other rather than compete against one another. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners in Escambia County, Florida commends Juanita Lindsay for inspiring current and future generations of women of color through her dedicated leadership and service to the women of Escambia County. Be it further proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Escambia County hereby invite you to attend the Black Girls Magic Awards on February 2023 at Majestic Gatherings on 2725 West Van Street. Board of County Commissioners, Lumen May Chairman, Stephen Berry Vice Chairman, Jeff Begosh District 1, Mike Kohler District 2, Robert Bender District 4.
Yes, Jeff Smith, Extreme Landscapes. Thank you, Commissioner May. Thank you, Ms. Lindsay. Did the clerk's office receive the proofs of publication for the public hearing on the agenda in the board's weekly meeting schedule?
The clerk's office has received all proofs.
Super.
Move to waive the reading.
Thank you.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please vote, or all those, please vote.
That passes 5 in favor. Thank you. Where are we? Clerk's report.
For you to approve today. The first one is the collection of the TDT tax, which is your January 2023 collections. We are at $5 million. That is about the same as fiscal year '22. We also have minutes and reports that we prepared. More importantly, we are finishing up the financial audit field work tomorrow. We started this field work mid-November. It's a very long audit. It's very demanding on your staff and mine. So we'll finish up that field work audit within the next 2 weeks. We will have an audit opinion with findings that we can discuss. I expect it to be a clean audit. Thank you.
Move the clerk's report.
Second.
That passes 5 in favor. Horace.
Yes, sir. Good morning, Chairman, Commissioners, Board members. For the first item on the, is an action item for an appointment for a voting for 2 candidates for at-large appointment for the Planning Board. First one is, we have the first candidate, Tim Powell, and a second candidate, Keith Wickens.
Commissioner Berry.
Mr. Chairman, would you be open to maybe bringing this back to the first meeting in March?
Absolutely, I would. I mean, unless there's an
Unless
opposition.
there's a strong opposition, board, would y'all entertain that?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'm prepared to vote today, but if you'd like to, at your discretion, if you'd like to bring it back, I don't think there's any harm in it.
It would be great to drop it because I would like to look at some dual office holding issues regarding Mr. Wilkins, who's serving as an interim city manager. So that would allow us to make sure that's.
That makes, yeah, the chair entertains. Can I just drop it, Madam? Okay,
I move we drop it till the March meeting.
sounds great.
Second.
The next item would be a final plat approval of Nature's Creek Phase 2.
Hold on.
Do we have any speakers on this item, Mr.
No,
Chairman?
no speakers.
I would move the item in the affirmative.
Second.
That passes 5-0. Horace.
The next item will be a recommendation concerning a final plat, Mary Annetta Estates.
This is a new part of my district. Do we have any speakers?
No, sir.
Then I will move the item in the affirmative, A and D.
Second.
That passes 5 in favor.
The next item will be a 14-day consecutive temporary concrete.
Okay, we have 2 speakers on that, Horace. Let's get the speakers real quick. Ron Porter.
Yeah, we're all against Shavers crushing concrete. You guys have been denying everybody else. You got people out there on breathing apparatuses in the neighborhood. You got children, you got animals, and Shavers, if they do the type quality work is what their yard looks like and on the side of the road with no culverts under their drives and ditches for drainage and all, I don't see how they in business. Now, I think I'm working against a stacked deck with you because when you brought up your restaurant deal, it's all about you, and not the citizens. Don't waste my time. My time's running out. We've had problems out there. We want them fixed. They have not done the first thing that they promised the neighbors out there they'd do. They done come to us trying to bribe us. They're giving us a load or so of asphalt for the road, and they hadn't done that. Their word ain't worth the breath that it spit out. And we're starting to have trouble with Roads Inc. with all their sludge and drainage coming on the back of the properties now. There's supposed to be a cap eye on that, and ain't nothing been done. Y'all ain't looking out for the citizens in the north end. Not at all. You're doing what's lining y'all's pockets.
Thank you, Ron. I appreciate it. Next speaker will be Sharon Cummins.
Hello. I just have a quick note here about that concrete crushing. Shavers bought 18 acres that parallels my whole property. And they want to put a concrete crusher that makes a lot of noise right up against my property and right across the street from a Jim Allen Elementary School. And I did a little research, and I went with CDC and OSHA, and it said that crystalline silica is in concrete as a fine dust and suspended in air can reduce lung function. And silicosis can be totally disabling and may lead to death. Crushing and generating the crystalline silica dust can irreversibly damage the lungs. So there's a bunch of elementary school children in developmental stages where that stuff, I don't care how much water you think you're going to spray on it, because I've seen what they do. And it spews in the air. It's going to filter down on all of us and all of those children out playing at recess. And it's loud, noisy, and it's just not going to work. And I also have lung problems where I have to use inhalers. And sometimes when they're doing something over there, I have to go inside because I can't work in the yard because they're burning diesel. And it's just become quite hazardous to all the health out there, and especially the children across the street. It's a big elementary school full of little kids. Okay,
Thank you so much, Ms. Cummings. Chair will entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, and I do appreciate the two folks that made the trip down to speak this morning. I have not interacted with Ms. Cummings, but I have with Mr. Porter over the years a number of times. And Ron, I know you've spoken to Dawn a few times recently, and if you would just communicate what some of the other issues may be out there, then if there are some code enforcement issues, we will address that. If there's some issues with what's going on roads south of your property, then we'll address that. One of the concerns about crushing, I do understand it. It's a conversation the board's had many, many times over the years. This is one instance where we're looking at a 14-day permit. It's not a permanent nor a regular. It's not a permanent nor a regular activity that's going to be on the property. I do think that perhaps not universally successful, but I do think that Mr. Shavers has made an effort with a number of the residents out there to garner support for what he's doing and for even for this 14-day permit. But that's again, that may not be universally successful. But Mr. Chairman, I would move the item to approve the 14-day consecutive temporary crushing permit for Shavers Inc.
And I'll second that. And Commissioner Berry, just for discussion, I'll also add on, I've got one of these in my district, McDirt, and it operates 365, and he works very well with the neighbors. And there's a number of mitigation measures that are utilized, including the water spray. And then there's also, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also county ordinance that prohibits them from doing it if the winds are of a certain speed.
Sure.
So they go out there, and I believe, Horace, help me if I'm wrong, and Chips and the guys from environmental, don't they do measurements of the?
Definitely.
Yeah,
Yes,
so
they do.
I mean, it's a temporary permit. I mean, I thought everyone loved recycling. We're taking concrete, we're making products out of it that we can be reutilized. I'm in full support of it, and appreciate the concerns. And I also want to clarify the record. Shavers Construction just dropped everything and did something very quickly in my district to help me. But it has nothing to do with me. It helps the citizens. And when we're talking about bringing restaurants to Beulah, that has nothing to do with Shavers Construction, and not a dime of any of that money goes in any of our pockets. To say so is just ridiculous. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Please vote.
Now, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, we're talking about y'all's process on what you'll be doing in those 14 days during the permit.
Yes, sir. You do have a protective ordinance in terms of off-site impacts associated with dust, and we have crews that do go out and monitor those sites for any off-site dust, and if we're noticing anything that approaches an exceedance, we do shut them down.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Horace.
And board members, for what it's worth, while we certainly again, everybody's not going to be you're not going to be necessarily supportive of that type of activity in the neighborhood, even as brief as it may be. But we did receive several calls of support for it. After the outreach that Mr. Shavers made, whatever efforts he made with some different neighbors, he did succeed in garnering some goodwill among some of them. So
That passes 5 in favor.
So,
Horace.
last item on the agenda is the consent agenda for March the 2nd.
Chair entertain a motion for the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you, Horace.
The system is really intuitive.
County Administrator's report.
Mr. Chairman, there are 11 items on the technical public service consent agenda. There are no changes.
Any speakers, Mr. Chairman?
No speakers, sir.
I would move the consent agenda in its entirety.
Thank you.
Second.
Please vote. That passes 5 in favor.
Mr. Chairman, there are 28 items on the budget finance consent agenda. There are no changes. However, hold for speakers CAR 2-12, 2-13, 2-14. The speaker for each one of those items is Chris Kerb.
Any other speakers? No?
No, sir.
I move the balance.
Second.
Thank you, Grover, for being here. Passes 5 in favor. Wes?
Chris Kerr?
Thank you, sir. This is a good project. I helped get it off the ground, investigated, been to several of those people's houses that are given easements. So thank you, Commissioner Bagosh, for funding it out of your discretionary funds.
I did.
It's a good project, and it's good progress for reducing flooding for the interior lots of the subdivision. However, there are some houses along 8 Mile Creek that it's not going to benefit. They experience flooding from the flood stage of 8 Mile Creek. One gentleman in particular I've been in discussion with is David Schneidmiller. He lives at 3203 Friginger Drive. And I probably destroyed his last name there, but he contacted me after phase 1 and 2 was under construction. And he mentioned that several of his neighbors along 8 Mile Creek, adjoining 8 Mile Creek, they flooded in April 2014 and in Hurricane Sally. So, and I told him my opinion on this. You know, it appears that his house is, you know, it's the flood stage. It's not the conveyance system that's causing his flooding. He sent me an email yesterday. It says it appears that the area by my house is turning into a holding pond. That's where you got a storm pipe coming down. Now, why do I bring all this up? Because, I mean, I'm for the project, and I'm definitely want this to be approved. But it goes into your plan. 8 Mile Creek Basin Study was done 29 years ago, and it ain't been updated since. Back when those types of projects were done in the 1994, when you did a basin study, you really didn't look at stream restoration as a method to dealing with flood stages and creeks. Now, we do that now, but brings to another point with your basin study program. You really haven't done that many of them recently. You haven't updated the basin studies that you have. And you have a House Bill 53 that you came up with a plan, and that plan is based off of obsolete rainfall data. It's also outdated. So I'd like to see y'all to take a look at your master drainage plan program and start updating the ones you have, and maybe get the whole county under a study.
Chris, thank you for your compliments on this project. It's when I inherited it, my first campaign. I walked through the neighborhood, I saw the damage from 2014, and then of course we know what happened with Sally. This project's been on the books for a long time, as you know.
Yes, sir.
It was stuck on dead center. We got some additional funding, we found some additional money, and we got the project going in the right direction. Fritinger and Purcell, they both have issues. This is a multi-phase project, and my hope and my goal is that we solve the problem on Purcell and Fritinger when we're done with all the phases. But if you stay for a little later in the meeting and you see some other things we're going to talk about, if we do things right and things go the right way, we're about to have an additional infusion of local option sales tax money that we can put just toward projects just like that. And like the other ones that I've been funding, like the Sarasota ditch and what my counterparts are doing. There's a lot of good news coming. It's just we haven't had money to do all of it. That might be changing. Stay tuned.
And I can really appreciate that. Santa Rosa County just put $1 million into their environmental program last week. So and I'll talk about some other things on the other agenda items. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move item 12 in the affirmative.
We have a motion.
Second.
Please vote.
And I appreciate the support on this, guys. This is a decade-long project. And
Not a problem.
We're rocking it.
Wes?
Chris, item 13.
He's speaking on the next
You know, there's
couple
3 minutes I get, so
You wanna just cover
use
both?
agenda items.
You want to just cover both at one time?
Yes, sir. That's cool. These are both buyouts. Agenda item 13, that has a lot of different buyouts. And just to let you know, I can't remember if it's North Carolina or South Carolina, but they have a buyout program there done with the counties, and it works through the state, where 6 months after a storm event, you're buying the houses out, so they don't have time to rebuild. So you actually spend more money when you do buyouts in these areas that repetitive loss flooding. I don't know if that's something the state of Florida could work at looking at doing, but it's definitely worth something that maybe our American Flood Coalition could push. Cove Avenue is the first one on here. That's in your 8 Mile Creek Basin. Again, that basin needs to be studied, restudied. Scenic Hills is the next one. That basin hadn't been updated since 1994 either. Of course, you got the Woodland subdivision project upgrading of that, so I think this kind of fits in with that project. West Cross Street, that's in your Warrington Basin. Dale Street's in your Beverly Parkway Basin, and that's near your Oakfield Acres project that you got going on, Commissioner May. Dog Track Road is in Bayou Grande, and I believe y'all did it was a South Dog Track Restore project. And I think right in that area where you're doing this buyout was a proposed pond location. So that was a Restore funded project. I don't think it's been very far with that. But LaFair Place, that's in Bayou Marcus Basin Branch B, which I believe, and Willow-Side Circle, which is kind of part of your Warrington Basin, but it's right at the top. That kind of is going to fit in with your Bridle Trail Estates Lake Charlene Phase 2 projects. So all these buyouts, the point I'm trying to make is there's a good goal here that your basin studies, if you had your basin studies set up in the first place, you would know where all these properties would be. So when your grants come in, you could go right to them. So speaking on item 14, agenda 14 item, branch lands, that's a real good example. 1994 8 Mile Creek Basin Study. Sagebrush Trail flooding and improvements of an open ditch on the north side of that subdivision, ranch land subdivision, and on the west side. It was identified as a problem area 29 years ago. Now, there's been a lot of projects done in 8 Mile Creek Basin. Point being, and I'll make it simple, I'm in support of both of these, is your Stormwater Management Division goals should be, in my opinion, is to have a complete GIS compatible drainage inventory and an asset management system similar to how you have your
Chris, your
pond
time's up.
database
Can you go
and your
ahead and-
bridges. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
I'll
and
email it to you.
Thanks, Trish, and I hope you'd get with Joy and work on those basin studies for us.
Mr. Chairman, so it was 13 and 14 that were both
Correct.
held? All right, if there's no objection, I move items 13 and 14.
Second.
Thank you. Please vote.
And Mr. Chairman, after this, I need to, if you indulge me for just a second.
I can have some time after you.
Okay.
That passes 5 in favor. Commissioner Berry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to, it's on an item that we already moved. It was a discretionary item from Commissioner Mays, discretionary for Pensacola High School baseball team, a $1,000 allocation from his discretionary. I'd like to add $500 to that as a motion.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Berry and Commissioner May, I'd like to add 1,000 as well to that program.
Thank you. That would be great. They really do need it. So that'll be a total of 2,500
So
for.
if we can have he's got a motion, I'm assuming you're amending it to include
Yeah,
Mr.
I amend my
Burgash's?
motion to include
So we need
Commissioner
a second and
Burgash's
a vote.
allocation, and please tell Michael Smith that we said good luck, and.
Yes,
and,
sir.
You know,
We'll do it.
I'll second the amended motion from
You will?
Commissioner Berry.
Thank you. We good with that? Please vote. No, I was just making sure it was clear, Madam Attorney. before votes. That passes 5 in favor. Thank you, Commissioner Berry. West?
Hey, Lumi, if I could, just real quick.
I'm sorry. We'll go ahead, Robert.
So we just took, one of the things we already passed was for the miscellaneous appropriations agreement for the Naval Museum Foundations for the Blue Angel cockpit experience. Madam Clerk, it looks like we've added some language in here to check off some of the things that were mentioned in the audit. Do you have any issue with this item today? No, ma'am, you don't? I'm sorry?
Not at this point.
Not at this point, or?
Be clear on what you're asking me in the specifics.
I'm just asking, do you think that we've addressed in this item some of the concerns that the audit raised?
Yes, I do.
We've identified which penny and said that's to promote
And when I say not at this point, there's more work to be done that we'll
Okay.
have to do in the future. So at this point, it's in a good place.
Okay,
And we'll
perfect.
just keep moving forward with future invoices that go through. And I work with Stephen Hall to make sure that's done.
No, that's, yeah, it was just, yeah,
Yeah.
thanks, appreciate it. Yeah, we already voted on it, that's.
Wes?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. CAR 3-1 is concerning $67 million rebuild Florida Hurricane Sally Infrastructure Repair Program grant applications. In Escambia and Santa Rosa County, there's $53.6 million of competitive grant money available. So the grant timeline, it was announced January 18th, 2023. The grant application window closes April the 4th of 2023. However, there is a 30-day comment period in which we will need to list which projects we may be proposing. I have contacted our state lobbyist, and while we, at this point in time, are limited to 3 applications, we can list more than 3 for the public comment period, should we wish to do that. Additionally, our Chris Dawson, our state lobbyist, I know, and Commissioner Bender's been engaged, and there's some meetings coming up toward the end of next week where we're trying to hopefully move the needle a little bit to be able to submit more than 3. I know we're trying to chip away at that, so we will keep you updated as that moves forward. And so with that, there are a list of projects that attach to this item for consideration and discussion. And I just.
So we're gonna submit a total of 56 million, correct?
That's the money that's available.
Right.
Yes. And that's what we're trying to do.
So I think, maybe put 6 out for the public, allowing, maybe each commissioner can make a recommendation and see, then can we come to a decision on the 6th one? That would be 5 plus 1, unless someone else has a better idea.
If you don't, I would say there are a few things we're working on. I wouldn't even limit it to 6 right now. I would say, 1, Commissioner May, on the area that we border along Olive Road, that's a fairly large drainage project that is in the works. I would like to have that added to the list.
Okay, it's not on here at this point.
It's not on here at this point. The other thing is Administrator Moreno was right. I'm hopefully going to meet with DEO next week when I'm over there and see about either expanding the number of items that we can submit, or submitting like projects grouped as one. So if we're doing drainage and drainage improvements or stormwater improvements, that maybe 3 projects could be lumped in as one instead of each one, because as we see on here, some of these are fairly low dollar amounts, and I say that in the sense that it's 1 million, 2 million, 1.5, 2 million, and if we can only limit it to 3 projects, then and it's intended to serve as improvements for, then they've somewhat limited us. Plus, there has to be a minimum of what, 750. So, and the 53.6 million is designated for Escambia and Santa Rosa County. So, I feel like we're maybe not.
Well, maybe a thought then, Robert, is if you're going to, because I like your idea of you bundling these up, maybe we need to get more clarification, put it on the committee of the whole and make a decision.
Well, and that's what I'm saying is that, of course, something I can work on with DEO and with Chris Dawson, and that's what I'm saying. I wouldn't limit the number to 6, because I think we can go ahead and put these out as a public comment period, and then we would have some time either over the 30 days or immediately after to whittle them down. But at least at that point, every project would meet the requirement to have a public comment period of 30 days.
That's good. Yeah, it would have been good if we could have gotten clarification before it was on the agenda today, but.
Yeah.
We've been trying.
We've been trying.
We've been trying.
I mean, it's last week I was, Chris Dawson had worked with it, and I would say that it's, part of this is having to go from the federal side, work
Well, we got a
through-
federal lobbies and a state lobbies. They can't figure that out, then
Yeah.
we need to stop paying them.
Well,
You
no,
know,
they,
Yeah, or get a new lobbies. I mean, we
they've
got
got it
lobbies
figured
on
out.
now.
It's just trying to,
Well, give us an answer then.
no, I mean, no, he's given us an answer, but it's.
So what's the answer?
The answer is we can submit 3.
Okay, well, that's what
I
it
mean,
is.
The thing is, though, is that we can have them try to change that and tell them why it would be in their better interest and our better interest to be able to do more than 3. So it's, I mean, they gave us the answer, but it sounds like the lobbyist has connections there that we can talk to them and try to sway them and how it's currently set up.
Can I make a suggestion, Chairman? So I read through this, and I like the first idea, but I would go 2 parallel routes since it was 3. I think the board should submit 3, and then we should submit another one if we can do more. And that's the way I would go about it.
Thank you.
But we don't have to submit anything right now. It's all just for posting for public comment.
Mr. Chairman, I had come into today, expecting that we were going to end up with 3. 6 was okay. If we're going to do something different, then I'm concerned that we're not going to hash it out today.
I don't think we're going to hash it out today. That's why I thought that we'd bring it to a committee of the whole. But if the rule, what Robert said, and the point of clarification was, we got the answer. If the answer's 3, it's 3. I mean, and that's, I can't change that.
What's the hard timeline again?
I just saw it. Well, January, the one that closes April 4th. So, I mean, we have a little time.
What's the time period that they have to be out for public comments?
30 days.
So they have to be out for public comments for 30 days, and so I'm assuming whatever projects we submit have to be they have to be included in the projects that are out for 30 days to receive public
Right.
comments. So we would need to have that
That's
list. Okay, so we would need to have that list narrowed down by February 4th or 5th. So,
Well, you could put the 6 out. I mean, it's not saying that you're going to do it. You can narrow it down, put all 6 of them out for public comment, and then decide what 3 you want to do. You see what I'm saying?
yeah, how long, what's the,
Just leave it out for,
what's the process to actually put it out for public comment? How involved is that? Can it happen in a day? You just put the projects out?
It's out for 30 days, then we bring it probably for a public hearing and a board meeting.
No, I mean, the process between the board selecting and then them going out to public.
It's posted on our website.
can you get it out
that-
today?
Yeah, I guess.
Can we get it out today?
Yeah,
Today.
The process is that easy, just,
Yeah,
you
put it
just
out
put the
today.
projects out there?
Yep, we can get it
Yeah.
out today.
All right, I mean, we have a board meeting on the 2nd. We could, well.
That wouldn't be
okay,
30 days.
The board would still, Allison, the board would still need to vote on the items that were out there before they went to DEO, and that deadline's on April 4th.
Correct.
So what's our first board meeting in April? What's that date?
Well, I'd also, Stephen, I'd also say those that, I mean, I would want staff to try to be focused on a few projects instead of having to prepare for all of them.
So,
I mean, I don't know if there's some on here that we just want to kick out.
Well, I mean-
that we don't think would get anywhere anyway, and then that we at least reduce that.
Well, I don't see staff putting much more effort into anything until we decide which ones we're having.
Well, I think the problem is then you have like a week to get all the applications in.
So if we put it out, if we pick 6 today, we can bring it back the last meeting in March, which would give us time to get it submitted by April 4th, and it gives us 30 days.
So our meeting in April would be April 6th,
Well, that's all you got to do at the last meeting.
March 23rd.
which would be just a month and a week away.
Yeah, that's my birthday. It'd be great. So that would give us, yeah. So unless there's strong opposition, let's put the 6 projects out, come back on the 23rd and decide what 3 we want. Unless there's opposition.
Sorry, say that again.
Let's just pick 6 projects, and on the 23rd, decide what 3 we want. By that way, you'll have the answers of whether or not you can bundle them together, whether you can do infrastructure or drainage, you'll get that clarification, you'll get your lobbyists, and we'll go.
Perfect plan.
But I'm just saying, I mean, if we have 4 engineering projects that we could bundle as one, then You know what I'm saying? I mean,
Well, yeah, I hear what you're saying.
I would say, I mean, not to put it on the engineering department, but I would say anything that, like drainage is out there, and then we pick maybe 2 others or something like that that we want to.
If we're going to talk specifically about projects, there's the multi-use center that was submitted by Mike Rhodes. That, you know, I know I think the board can give a lot of feedback about what we would expect in that center, you know, for evacuation shelter and other types of things. But the project that Mike put forward for the multi-use center at Ashton Brosnahan, I certainly want that included in whatever list we put forward. So if we're going to talk specifically about projects, that's one that I want. It's a big lift, and this would not be the majority of the funding, but it would be a nice chunk. And you know, I think it also provides a benefit. You know, if we're able to utilize some of these grant funds for that project, it leaves a lot more money in the eventual build out of the project in the TDC, in the fifth cent in those dollars.
And you know, I'm willing, whenever you decide, you have my full support to go get those dollars. That's why we brought the 5th cent on, so we can.
Absolutely, but if I think by including the multi-use center as one of these that we put forward, if we're successful pulling down some dollars there, I think it will leave us more dollars back for potential improvements at the Bay Center, which I know is important to you. I know it's important, you know, to Commissioner Bender, Commissioner Burgash. You know, we've got, you know, commitments with Sunbelt. We have, you know, other stakeholders there, and I know some capital. Anything we don't have to spend at the multi-use center at Ashton Brosnahan could be spent on improvements that are needed at the Bay Center. So I feel like it's a win-win. It's a win for the multi-use center, but it's also a win for the Bay Center. Anything that doesn't have to be spent out of TDC.
And that would be your project that you would pick, and that's why I made that recommendation.
I want everybody to pick that one.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to support all the solar-powered bus shelters and all that, but, I mean, I was over at ECAT last week. I mean, you know, the building is 50 years outdated, and to me, you know, transit is universal. I mean, if I was going to pick a project, I'm going to pick that, but I think that affects all of our districts. But, I mean, you can't even park there. It's just an accident waiting to happen. Someone's going to get ran over. So, yeah, it's picked. Yep, I'm picked. So I got one. You got one. Anybody else got one?
Well, I mean,
because I just can't be here all day, Jeff. We got to get you that steak.
I would the radio trunking. I mean, I think that's great. Is that necessarily the infrastructure that these grants are talking about? Is there a better grant out there that we could apply for this? You know, same with the animal shelter. I mean, I know we need a new animal.
But we can pick anyone we want. I get it.
I understand that. I just don't know if the animal shelter it fits this grant opportunity.
Well, it's just staff. It's kind of like your children. They can say what they want for Christmas, but if I got to buy it, you know, I'll decide. I mean, I think that staff made some recommendations, and everybody was probably buying for their own department, which I don't blame them. If I was a director of animal shelter, if I was a director of ECAT, that's what I would do. But I think ultimately the decision's right here of what we want to do, Robert. And so whatever decision we want to make, that's what we got to make. It's great they asked for it. Great. I mean, maybe a good idea. Maybe we'll go find other funding for it.
Right. Same with the IT one. You know, I mean, it's.
Yeah, Commissioner, these were ideas. Animal shelter, we know we're in need over at the animal shelter, and it's in the right area, so we added it to the list. It may not necessarily be the top project that the board would like to submit, but we felt it was something that would be good for consideration. We are chasing down grants. I mean, right and left, we're chasing down grant money.
Mr. Chairman, the only thing I want to say in this, because I'm pretty neutral on this, but I did appreciate Liz sitting down with me and racking and stacking these based on the scoring criteria. Kind of agree with what Commissioner Bender's saying. I do think we should consider the matching funds. I don't want to lose any money. I hope everyone on this board considers that, because a couple of mine are enormous amount of matching funds. So I hope that's taken into consideration when we rack and stack these requests.
Okay, all right, Robert, you want to put the engineering in. Steve, you got one. Jeff, you got one?
No, I don't believe my district qualifies for any of them.
Good deal. Kohler, you got one?
I got two.
Okay,
I'd
well,
like
one,
to,
well, we're gonna take
I'll take
one.
the Beach Haven one,
All
if
right.
you'll add it, for stormwater septic to sewer.
So Lumen, I'd like to include the Bay Center one just because it does serve as our main shelter.
I agree.
But also add that one of the Olive Road drainage that we've got going on in our district.
Add that. So let's get a clear motion of where we're going. Are we keeping all of the engineering? Are we submitting it or not?
You're gonna try to pull some of those, give some direction to pull ones that they think fit together.
Wes, so here's the direction. Pull the small engineering projects together, because I can tell you PHS drainage and Oakfield's important to me. Pull the drainage together. We're gonna move forward with the Ashton Brosenham Indoor Multi-Use Center, Pensacola Bay Center Critical Infrastructure, the ECAT, New Energy Efficient ECAT, and, well, Beach Haven, obviously.
All right.
And then you would add Commissioner Bender's Olive, what's the name of that project?
Olive drainage improvements.
Olive Drainage Improve.
Yeah, I can. Yeah.
It just pull with all the
It's not currently
engineering.
on here.
All right,
Yeah.
that's what we'll do.
That's what I do. So Chair will entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second, please vote. That passes 5 in favor. And Wes, if you'd have staff put it out today, just so we'll have more time to discuss it.
Absolutely.
Mr. Chairman, if I might?
Yes, sir, anytime.
Wes, I might steal a little of your
You go
thunder,
ahead.
if that's all right with you.
Go ahead,
I
Commissioner.
want you to stand up when you do it, Jeff.
No, I feel like I need to stand up and dance.
Yeah, I mean, you probably just should get a cordless mic.
You have no idea, well, some of you do, but many of you have no idea what a great day this is. So as we're sitting here on the dais contemplating not one, but not two offers, hot off the press, we just got another. We had a $33 million offer for OLF 8 on Friday. This morning at 6 a.m., we got a $35 million offer. Just now, we had a counteroffer at $38 million. So to all the naysayers who said this was a bad deal, this was a good deal, and it's about to get much better. So, Wes, you just dropped that in our laps like it was nothing.
Now, I don't know why we stopped negotiating, because my idea was always $50 million. So,
Well-
I mean, yeah, so keep negotiating, Jeff.
Well,
You
you
get
know
your two
what?
steaks.
The thing is, you have to talk about these things. When you get them, you talk about them. Then people that are on the sidelines pull out the checkbook, right? But anyway, I wanted to mention that. Now, Wes, now that I've stolen your
Yep,
thunder.
Commissioner, that was just hit my email box. So I wanted to get that distributed for the discussion. We have 10 speakers signed up. If y'all would like to hear those
Let's
speakers
hear 'em.
first.
Let's hear from the speakers.
All right, Zachary Campbell. Teresa Blackwell, you'll be on deck. Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, Board, thank you for the opportunity. That certainly sounds like good news, and those of us who live in Beulah are very concerned, and here's why. D.R. Horton, my property borders OLF 8, and right across the street from me, D.R. Horton has built 237 houses. They've had to tear up the pavement and repave it. There are drainage problems with some of my neighbors. And I thought this was settled sometime, I guess, the fall of last year. And then I believe it was Commissioner Berry who wanted a 45-day period on that. And then one day we're coming home from work and there's a for sale sign out there on OLF 8. And the assumption was that we were going to go with a DPZ plan. Well, you know, I'm surprised. This is good news, I guess, but what I want to charge our commission with is don't give them the slack that we gave D.R. Horton. He took about a 35 to 50 acre parcel that was rolling pasture land with big old growth oak trees. He virtually leveled it, clear cut all the oak trees and burn them. Right behind a berm, he built a huge berm. And I stopped one of the inspectors one day and I said, "What is going on here?" And he said, "They pay the fines." I thought, that's awesome. You know, there's oversight and accountability seems to be a problem for D.R. Horton. And I want to ask our commissioners and those in charge to not let whoever we choose get away with that. And let's, we anxiously await to hear what the companies involved and who's behind them and who owns what. I mean, at one time, Breland was
Mr. Campbell,
owned by D.R. Horton.
Thank you very much. Your time is up. Teresa Blackwell. On deck will be Cecilia Campbell.
Just to clarify before my time starts, are we down to 2 minutes? Is that what it is? Or we don't have a chairman here?
Yes, ma'am, it's 2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes. You know, I've been working on this for years. I've got 2 minutes.
Yeah, we don't do that.
Yeah, we don't see time.
Pardon me?
We don't allow people to give their time.
All right, so, well, my
No,
time is
start-
not started.
start the
Start that
clock
clock.
over,
We're debating. Stop that clock. Mr. Chairman, I've been working on this for like 5, 6 years.
Well, but go ahead and start in, Teresa, I get it.
I've got 2 minutes.
Right, go ahead.
Okay. It's not surprising that both these offers are from home builders. That's what the appraiser said that land was valued at most highly, and that would be the highest and best use. But we agreed on that master plan. And so that's what I want to see in place. Whoever buys this property needs to go by the master plan as well as the design code from DPZ. And any changes should go through the normal land use process for changes, advertised to the public, through the planning board, to the BCC, and then change into the land development code. D.R. Horton, you know, in Beulah, I've lived next door to their building twice. They are not good neighbors. They are not to be trusted to build in the spirit even of the master plan. They can't even necessarily meet the state or federal regulations related to the environment. So, you know, 10 million more would not sell D.R. Horton to Beulah. We've all had too much experience with them. And any deal with them would require a great deal of oversight. On the other hand, this other builder, as Mr. Burgash said, checks all the boxes and would give us a greater value in the long term. And hopefully they might come back with a counteroffer, but even if they did, they are the ones that look great. And there should be no vote today. This has not been advertised or vetted by the public, and so only discussion. But I can tell you, this company, on Builders Daily, they say, Breland reignited, they have an act, okay. Oh, here it is. They've done this sort of
Teresa,
thing.
can you close it up, please?
Okay, they've done this sort of thing. They've created town centers. They developed Town Madison, which was actually designed by DPZ. And they are noted as a highly successful at this type of venture.
Thank you, Teresa. Your time's
Lightning
up.
in a bottle.
Thank you, your time's up.
Is what they said. So.
Thank you.
I protest.
What's our next speaker?
Cecilia Campbell.
Protest 2
John
minutes.
Kellos
Thank you.
will be on deck.
My name's Cecilia Campbell, Beulah resident. Okay, my name's Cecilia Campbell, and we have seen this process through, as I said, in the public forum. And I tell you, I was very excited to hear about other offers this morning. Oh, my word. Because I was very concerned when I heard that y'all were all excited about D.R. Horton. I'm thinking they're not qualified, and what are they going to do? When we want to build a school out there, does D.R. Horton sell the school board property to build a school? I mean, I was just trying to fathom how y'all would plan that. And my biggest concern, several months ago, we were here at a meeting, and the hiring of a master planner was tabled for 45 days. And you know, we're retired, we travel, and it's like, whatever happened to that? And I'm just concerned that we haven't already hired a firm, and of course, everyone who was closely involved with the DPZ in Beulah, but that was perfectly suitable in everything that we've seen that they've done. So I'm hoping we go forward with hiring a firm to carry out the Beulah master plan quickly. And our worst fears are that the master plan will not be followed, because that is just our hope as citizens of Beulah, wanting to make Beulah a really cool destination site for my friends that I graduated from high school with in 1969 at PHS. I can see all of them just being really excited because downtown's closed for them, but this is a destination. The main thing you've heard me say before is just that it would be the kind of place that our grandchildren would want to move back home. And that they'll have, all of our people will have what they need right there in Beulah. And I'm with you, Jeff, about restaurants, because as we age, we're happy to travel a short distance instead of all the way downtown or to the beach. But just please be diligent and don't try to rush into anything and to get the right company that's capable of giving us what we're seeing when we go traveling other places.
Thank you.
Thank you.
John Kellis, Chris Kerb, you'll be on deck.
John Callis, I live in Nature Trail. The changes that are going on this morning are inspiring. First off, I want to say, Commissioner Burgosh, I've read a lot of vilifications of you regarding your being a strong proponent of building housing on the OLF 8. Nothing could be further from the truth. From day one, you have been staunchly advocating nothing but commerce. So the master plan that was evolved by DPZ was something that was a creation and a large body of work that took a long time. They designated areas for where there would be some residential, where there would be mixed use, where there would be commerce, where there would even be a school, where there would be the commerce sections that would evolve over time and would be able to be redesignated should they did not evolve over that time period. That's an important body of work. D.R. Horton's letter of intent shows their lack of commitment to this master plan, aiming for already sliding into a spirit of it. That's absurd. The master plan is a large body of work that took a long, long time, and any contract that we enter into should certainly require adhering to that master plan and the ensuing land development code that goes with it. And I encourage you to strongly make sure that happens.
Mr. Chairman, if I might. John, thank you for those kind words, and you're right. I have been vilified this week because I talked about it. I'm certainly not going to say anything negative about D.R. Horton. They're a company that exists. They do what they do. The important thing to recognize, and what I've tried to convey this week to the many people who've reached out to me and lashed out at me is, the master plan is codified. This board voted for it. It's in the land development code. It's there. So D.R. Horton, whatever they want to do or whatever they put into their offer, I was never going to go back on let me just say this so you understand it. I was never going to go back on the compromise that this board made. I worked hard, and you're right. I never wanted one house on that field because that's not the reason that we acquired that field. That field was acquired with taxpayer money from every district to create jobs for this whole community in this region. So obviously things change. I was outvoted on that. So we got a compromise. I still got 271 acres for high-tech jobs. That was my win. So I just want you to know, and everyone watching, and everyone on the various websites that love to attack us for putting this community forward, I never was going to go back on, and I never have gone back on. But someone has to get the party started. D.R. Horton gave an offer. I'm not going to say anything negative about them. It's all about what's negotiated. And the D.R. Horton offer, if you read it, talks about, we will work on a definitive agreement. That's where the rubber meets the road. And, they get beat up for quality. I understand that. I talked to the president of the company. Other parts of the country, they've built very, very quality products. And it's all determined by what standard they're held to, right? So to me, it's what's negotiated, not who. But now this exciting new offer, I agree. As I read this morning, it's just unbelievable. It's hard to believe. It's going to be tough for D.R. Horton to compete with what I'm looking at right here. Agreeing with the master plan, agreeing to work with Triumph Gulf Coast, and agreeing to bring jobs and mixed use and amenities for the residents and some residential, but we have a compromise. We have a master plan, and I want to see it through. So thank you for being here, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Kellis. Chris Kerb and David Bear, you'll be on deck.
I'm glad for y'all getting this money. I hope you put a lot of it into drainage, so. I know you will, Commissioner. I did want to throw something out there that I know probably hadn't come up even with DPZ when they were coming up with the master plan, but most of the OLF is in 11 Mile Creek Basin. A basin that the county studied 3 times, at least the northern half's been studied a couple of times. It started out in 1994, in 1999 after, I think it was Hurricane George, and then in 2008. And the biggest problem in that 11 Mile Creek Basin is the Bristol Park. 160 houses flooded in April 2014 and 100 in Sally. Now, that is up gradient at OLF, but it's in the 11 Mile Creek Basin, so things that happen in that basin affect that flood stage in that creek all the way up the creek. So why do I mention that? Well, you also have NOAA Atlas 14, which I've been talking about, versus the FDOT Zone 1 rainfall data that y'all are trying to get into your code. Maybe you can include in your contract with whoever buys the property that they use NOAA rainfall data, because I'm not sure how fast that's going to get put into your code. I know it's on your professional advisory committee. But let me give you a little bit of calculation. 539 acres, I believe is what I read in the paper. 2.76 inches is a 100-year storm, 24-hour duration. 2.76 inches is above the DOT rainfall data. That's 2 million gallons, 2 million cubic feet. That's a lot of water that's not being accounted for in all your drainage basins until you adopt NOAA Atlas 14 or upcoming current NOAA data. Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. David Bear. And Mel Pino, you'll be on deck.
Good morning, Commissioners. Thank you for allowing me to speak. I just wanted to talk about this project. I think OLF 8 is a great project from a Triumph standpoint. Triumph funds under the statute may only be used for infrastructure projects. The application was for the public infrastructure, and we think it's a great project. The board approved it, moved it forward, approved the term sheets. But this discussion today could be changing what the application was for and what the term sheets are tied to. So staff at Triumph is sort of on hold right now just to wait to see the outcome of this discussion and what action the county decides to take with it. If something changes with the project, then it has to go back through the process. Obviously, an amended application, and then Triumph staff will review it. Rick Harper will review, and Corey Henderson will review it. But
Hold his time. Go ahead, Commissioner Bear.
Oh, no, just when Mr. Bear's done.
Okay.
yeah, I mean, and that's it. It's just, we like this project as it is, and if something changes, we'd have to revisit it and see if it's something that still meets the statute. And
So both of these proposals would change our application to Triumph, David?
if you sell the property to a private entity, it's no longer public infrastructure that the grant would be used to support. The grant funding, the $14 million, is for the road and all the infrastructure, stormwater pond, et cetera. And it's a public project. But if you sell the property, then it becomes privately owned, and we can't pick winners and losers in the state of Florida. And so we can't fund those private projects.
Okay. So, Mr. Chairman, I think that, the board, the board is going to be very committed to, during the conversations that will happen, or that appear as if they probably will happen, in the next weeks and months. I think the board's very committed to managing that, to managing those requirements and to managing a way to keep that partnership in place.
Exactly.
No matter what happens on the property, the road. The road certainly, but even maybe above that, the sewer and the stormwater infrastructure is going to be required for, I mean, that's going to be required for almost anything that happens out there. We knew that. So we know that. I think that, I think that's going to be one of the challenges over the next, couple of months of trying to, trying to negotiate an agreement is going to be, it is, regardless of what the board does, what direction they go, it is a different dynamic with whether it's one of these two developers or ABC, ABC commercial developers out of New York City or something. It is a different dynamic, trying to incorporate those Triumph dollars onto the property.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think whatever ends up happening out there is going to look exactly like what somebody's done somewhere else. Even if it's very similar, I think it's going to be different because there's a dynamic, there's a dynamic that's going to be different. Even some large tracts of land, in other cities or other states might not have the history that this does, especially with the intent for the economic development. The board has set that as a goal for the property, all along. I don't remember the specific job requirements in this term sheet, but they were, approaching 400 jobs at 55,000 per, give or take, just conversationally, I think those were close. And those kind of requirements, I would expect the board is going to hold anyone to those type of requirements, and that's going to take some flexibility from whoever our partner may end up being to figure out how to make those things happen on the property, which may be a little bit different than what they've done, which is why these conversations over the next couple of months it may take some work and it may take some time, but I'm confident that as long as that's the intent of the board, which I feel it strongly is, that we'll be able to partner and I would hope, David, whether it's yourself or Rick or Corey, that while Wes and Allison are having conversations with potential partners, that your folks at Triumph are going to be open and engaged to kind of working with us and having those conversations with us, so that we're not coming at the end and saying, well, we need to make sure this works. If the conversation's had during that whole time, then it's because it's such an important part of it. The funding partnership is such an important part of the development of the property, that as long as, and I'm sure they will, but it's important that they would stay engaged with Wes and Allison as we work through it to try to make sure that we're checking the boxes along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if I may, my time's up. Triumph staff is always available to talk to county staff to work through all the details. Obviously, you've got 3 offers, but there's no meat, right? It's just offers, and so there's a lot of sausage making to get to an agreement. And so what it looks like at the end is what Triumph has to evaluate, and Triumph's available, the staff, Corey and Rick Harper, are available to discuss those details through that process and work with you and tell you what we can and can't do.
And that's the important part, so that it's not being evaluated simply at the end, that it's being evaluated, at different, benchmarked throughout the process, if they'll work with us.
Yeah, so FYI, that's for all Triumph requests. So anytime you guys have an idea, before you put it in writing in a pre-app or an application, contact staff and talk to them about it, because that's what they're there to do, is try to figure out how to get to a yes. We have this money and we need to spend it to help with the economic recovery and diversification, and our county has done a lot of good stuff in the city, and the county's got some applications now, but we want to get this funding out. Obviously, I live in Escambia County, so I have a very vested interest in seeing development and economic development growth here. So work with staff with any idea. I mean, just throw noodles against the wall. Talk to them.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask the speaker a question.
Okay, well, that's fine.
Yeah. Obviously, we were working a deal with a private entity for a number of jobs and a specific amount of acreage, and that qualified. So I appreciate you coming, Mr. Bear, and I appreciate what you've said. And, when we first had our first Triumph ask, it was a $29 million ask, and it looked totally different. It was going to be the giant field, nothing but commerce. I supported that. I support the 14.2, but I believe that there could be a way to work a grant out from Triumph with this new company. For instance, if they were to bring a component of high-paid administrative staff per se, and an X number, I think, you tell me, I mean, could we craft something within this deal that would allow for that roadway to be completed if they had that number of jobs? I mean,
Probably. I
Okay.
don't know. I mean, the devil's in the details.
Yeah.
I don't know what that means, but yes, I mean, if it's still public infrastructure.
Yeah, the
if it's
road-
still
the road, the
public
sewage.
Space, it just depends on, obviously, I would have to defer to our attorney,
Sure.
who's
Well,
Scott Remington, who.
I would just say, Mr. Chairman, I'm very, very optimistic that we could find a way to work it. If we were going to work the Triumph Grant with a lot of other private entities to acquire this property, in return for jobs to get the Triumph money. I think there's a way to do it. I think there's a way to do it within the negotiations with these parties.
Well, and Jeff, I'll say we're not going to solve it today, even with the chairman being here. I think offers allows for the opportunity to have serious negotiation. I mean, so the property becomes valued. If a developer didn't have Triumph money, they'd have to spend about $52 million to get its site ready. I mean, versus, you spend $24 million if you get the $14 million to have roads and infrastructure. But I think, as you said, whether it's a public partner, whether it's a P3, whatever it is, it has to be negotiated, and it's not going to be negotiated here in a public forum.
But I do anticipate you'll have a new Triumph offer if we go with one of these, and it might look totally different. And I believe I'd like to think optimistically we'd find a way to be successful with that.
Yeah, and if our staff approves it and thinks it's a good project and meets our standards, the statute, the board is in support. I mean, I'm only one of those votes, but the board was in support of this project, is in support of developing OLF 8. Escambia County, as you guys know, I don't need to explain it to you, we're at a disadvantage because of the lack of land and the availability for industrial and commercial development. And so a lot of jobs are going to other counties across the panhandle, to these other, disproportionately affected counties that are getting Triumph grants. We need them here. And so this is a great opportunity. That's why it was scored an A by Triumph staff, and we approved it unanimously. So we want to see something come back, depending on what happens today or in this process. We definitely want to continue to see this property get developed and jobs created.
Thanks, Dave. And Jeff, I mean, then I'll give it to Bender. For me, I'm never going to forget the mission in which we started. And it was to create jobs. It was not to create, a million residents. I mean, it was for job creation, mixed use. We spent $1 million for our plan. And for me, however, I lean and yield to you and Commissioner Berry and staff to go negotiate the deal. But for me and for the constituents that I represent, they're not moving there, but they certainly can work there. And so, that's going to be important for me for those jobs. And I think that's what Triumph wants. And so, we should just keep that in mind as we are negotiating. And people have an opportunity to offer whatever they want to offer. I mean, that's their idea. It's up to us to massage it, negotiate it, and make it work. Well, we don't leave Triumph dollars on the ground. Robert?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. David, I mean, of course, both of these offers have referenced, one, trying to keep the master plan in place. They understand what we're doing. So I think it's about bringing jobs to that side as well. So I think we would, I think it behooves them that it happens also. So I'm sure we'll probably try to work something out as much as we can. I mean, these also have some very long lead times. So I don't know how that would play into it if the project was completed before the sale was completed and things like that. So I've got other comments. I'm going to wait till after the speakers, but I appreciate you being here today. And of course, the opportunity to have a Triumph grant on this site piques their interest as well. So, but we'll have to follow the rules and see how we can incorporate everything.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bear. We appreciate you being here.
I would just like to say the Triumph Board and staff have been absolutely great to work with. They've always been very accommodating, Rick and Corey. It's been working the $14.2 million grant. They were very helpful, just always willing to meet, talk, do phone calls, and so I'm pretty sure we can work this out.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you.
And Jeff, just because we don't have opportunity to talk, as you negotiate this, maybe it remains public, but once we put $14 million worth of infrastructure in it, it's more value. It's probably worth more than $38 million. I mean, so there's a lot of different ways to work this project out. So, I mean, they're just buying raw land with no infrastructure off from 38. If I get infrastructure and roads, it's worth more than $38 million. But that's, the details are later in the negotiation. So, and in all fairness, I don't know if we should be negotiating it out in a public forum when we have so many people who are submitting, and I understand that somebody else is going to submit today after this meeting. So there's going to be other submissions that are going to happen. Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you for your kind words about my father. Please keep him in your prayers.
Amen.
Thank you.
We will. Thank you for your work and service when you know you could be spending time with your family. Melissa.
Delfino, Kevin Wade, you're on deck.
Thank you, Mr. Marino. Hats off to you. This is like one more big thing, right? My necklace is caught in my wet hair. Chairman May, I don't know how you had time to dry your hair today. You guys like broke the record for last minute agenda stuff this morning, but hey, let me take some of my time. Wow. Everybody, I mean, we're waiting for all of those apologies from the four corners, right? I mean, congratulations to you guys and to Mr. Cronley. Commissioner Berry, I had never realized everything that he actually did before you gave your interview on, despite the fact that I'm supposed to be working for him, right? Him and Soros, even though I've only met the poor man in passing one time, don't even know him. So the city is scrambling, right? We've got the mayor with Jim Little's article this morning because now they're freaking out because their big economic development thing is falling apart down at the Maritime Park. What was that? do I have that right? Millions of dollars in ad valorem tax stuff, including money from the Escambia CRA. I was down there speaking against it. It's not DC's fault. Grover, ushered that one. But my point is, well done, and now don't rush it. You guys have already proven you were so smart in this. Let the offers come in, and just like Chairman May said, get the right deal. Keep your master plan. Chairman Burgash, Commissioner Burgash, these people don't know it, but every single one of them, down to the one that hates you the most, have such a friend in you in this. Darn it, I wish we had had a commissioner when our disaster that's happening in the middle of Navy Point, which actually was a town center, which should have been a town center, but for lack of leadership, stick with it. Even these people that don't let the Schadenfreude get the best of you, deliver them something really special for the future. You can, you can.
Thank you for that, because I also was remiss in saying I live right there for the last 20 years, across the street, literally. So I know, Cece, you live right there. I'm right there with you. I want something good for the Beulah community, and I think we're going to get there.
All right, Stan McDaniels, you'll be on deck.
Rock on. Thank you all. Kevin Wade, 413 Southeast Boblets. Oh, the dreams of this have just been amazing. Absolutely. 22 plus years going towards getting something happening here. It seems like a big rush at this point. It is. I don't know. I expect that balloon to get shot down sometime soon, but like the staff of Triumph and the staff of the county have just been knocking it out of the park on this, and watching the machinations for decades always brings me right back to watching NAS Alameda, where I was stationed, and the city of Alameda is still dealing with trying to keep their master plan going, shucking and jiving with whatever. I think SunCal was the latest that they recently got ahead and got rid of, but that's 2,900 acres there, and there's 500 plus acres. Is an amazing gem. And seeing the excitement of what's happening right now is absolutely phenomenal. I thank y'all for moving this forward in the ways that you are. And I'm hoping that maybe even better offers. but keeping those jobs coming, that'd be good. I love all the dreams on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Stan McDaniels, Larry Downs Jr., you're on deck.
Stan McDaniels, 4511 Charmont Way. I'd like to offer $100 for 40 acres, and if you throw in a mule, I'll pay you 2.
Now, you know that was a pipe dream.
Larry Downs Jr. and Ryan Bell, you'll be on deck.
Oh, I just heard Melissa sigh. She's like, oh, God. I'm just used to it. How many shots you got? 5? Better be 5. That's what CDC recommends. All right. Hey, I just wanted to take y'all real close or real quick over a, hold on just a second here. Hold on. I've got a lot of video of y'all talking up there while the people are talking, so I just wanted to have that. All right. Anyways, just to kind of give y'all an idea of the Inflation Act. The Inflation Act. Y'all remember that getting passed? The Anti-Inflation Act? Anyways, in 2020, one penny costed $1.76 to make. $1.76. I mean, not a dollar. Oh, yeah. It's 1.76 cents. 7.42 cents for a dime. No, that's for a nickel. For a nickel. Shit, I got all my shit underlined here wrong. Anyways, in 2021, a nickel cost 8.52 cents. Can y'all believe that? A penny costed 2.1. That's just from 2020 to 2021. That's how much the inflation went up on it. So anyhow, let me get this here back here because I only got a few seconds. The $14 million that y'all are going to, or grant money, so that makes that property way more valuable. Y'all know that. Shit, man, this is not a lot of time here. I guess that's it. Damn, I had all kinds of stuff wrote down. All right, fecal matters.
Ryan Bell? Mr. Chairman, this will be our last speaker.
Thank you, Wes.
Hey, Commissioners. Good morning. My name is Ryan Bell, owner of Kinetic Realty Services. I was here twice over the past month discussing this topic. So as you guys have mentioned, this is a public situation. So I'm not really sure how we get around the negotiating this out in public. But what I would like to see is a process. We can have serious conversations if we know what the process is and we're able to engage in it. It's great, it's exciting to see the numbers that have come in since I was last engaged in this a month ago. So congratulations to everyone in that. But things coming in at 6 a.m., things coming in while we're meeting right now, it's not really a great scenario to be able to have these negotiations and put a full plan in place when you kind of have this live in the moment, things are happening in this manner. So just respectfully, I'd like to ask for more time than 2 weeks. I can't call these guys in Tampa that I'm working with, the guys in Orange Beach, every time I come out of this meeting and say, okay, I need your money now. I got 2 weeks to put something together or else we miss this opportunity. So I'd just respectfully like to ask that let's establish a process, guys. Let's allow for a time where we can all put a full plan together. I'd like to present you a full plan. Like a couple gentlemen before me, there's a lot of people that have dreams and good ideas, but let's have some time to really put something together that is well thought out and not have this process that we're engaged in now. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Mr. Bell. We'll just open the floor for a little debate for my colleagues, and let's get some direction and move on. Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, in light of what we've received, and I mean, we've already, each of us have talked about it already quite a bit. But I think what would be appropriate direction from the board today would simply be to, acknowledge receipt of the letters of intent from D.R. Horton and from Breland, and give Allison and Wes some direction to just begin conversations with both parties. And, you know.
Will we limit it to just those two, or?
Well, currently, that's what we have I think that's the actions that we would take, and if more letters of intent come in, then we, you know, then you know, we have received, I mean, it was a number of years ago, but we did receive, you know, some offer letters previously. They, you know, they were not at numbers that, you know, they were not at numbers that the administration and the, you know, thought at the time warranted the board discussing it. So, you know, just the receipt of a letter, I don't know, is good enough to you know, to give Allison and Wes, you know, some direction to have conversations with anyone that sends a letter. But I do think that both of these, that the two that we've received recently are, you know, the numbers are strong enough. The numbers are strong. They reference the mixed use, you know, the ending mixed use of the property, and they both reference the Triumph dynamic. So I think they both warrant conversations from the attorney and the administrator to, you know, to begin conversations there. And if things, you know, if we end up in receipt of more, then I think we would just kind of manage ourselves accordingly when that happens.
Sounds good. I mean, I can follow that. I'm good with that. And Jeff, I'll turn it to you, but I will say for me, 33 million sounds great, 38 million sounds great, you know, in theory. But practically, if we put $14 million in infrastructure, it's going to be more than we've anticipated always. I mean, so even if you had a 10%, you're probably going to put $15, $16 million in the infrastructure, purchase price, and things that we've done. I mean, you're right back at $30-some million. So, I mean, all that has to be taken into consideration for me. I mean, you know, so that's why to me it would be hard just to make a decision, because, you know, if I am going to put $15, $16 million in infrastructure, well, 38 million doesn't sound so great. But if we're not putting it in, then maybe 38 sounds great.
Right. Well, and I appreciate that, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the conversation. I certainly appreciate the offers that have come in, understanding there might be another, and I know that there's another that could be coming from a different organization. But meanwhile, we got two. We got two right now.
And great job. I want to compliment you and Commissioner Berry. Y'all have done a great job.
And you and every person on this board, and Scott Luth and staff. But I think, gentlemen, you know, when we look at both of these, we have some power. And I'm speaking with our attorney. We have some power to keep both players in the game, right? So now we've got the auction has commenced. 33, 35, 38. I'm certain there are many people watching. I'm sure the people that have submitted these offers are watching. But I would anticipate we may need a special meeting early next week. So I think we need to talk about that. Obviously, I'm good with what Commissioner Berry you know, recommends in terms of having Wes and our attorneys speak with them. But I think it might be helpful to have some guideposts of what this board is looking to do. You've heard me passionately express my desire that we not go back on the compromise. We each went into this negotiation, even our former counterparts, Commissioner Underhill and Commissioner Robinson, and then folks before our time that started the work on this. It was going to be a jobs program. It was very difficult to turn that ship around, and there was a lot of hard feelings, and I took a lot of body shots for that. So at this point, I'm not interested in turning around and turning away from what we've done. One of these offers is hands down better than the other, and I think each of us can represent that. And so with our broad powers of economic development that I'm sure the attorney will tell us about, it doesn't come down to the showcase showdown where someone outbids us by a penny. If it's the best value for this community and it meets the statute, we can take a lower bid. So with that, I think we set the guideposts. And I think the second offer did a good job at setting the guideposts. They're going to cooperate with Triumph. That's important. Staff can work with David Baer and the Triumph board. I would love to see infrastructure on that field paid for by Triumph. I think we can structure it with these guys. I don't think that'd be a problem. I think number two, we have to work within the spirit of that master plan and that compromise. Some public areas, a lot of jobs areas, and some residential that, of course, as I've said a million times, I never wanted. But it's a compromise, I'm gonna stick with it. And then number three, going through and working with the staff to bring this in, not for a year's worth of due diligence time. I never would have supported that. I think it was ridiculous. So I think we set a realistic 60 days to come up with an agreement with those guideposts, 6-month due diligence period. The money's got to go hard. The Breland offer, it does. The other one was kind of, you know, wishy-washy. And I think we let staff go figure that out and then bring it back to us. And then I think we have to, at some point, we have to say, If it's a $35 million offer and, we don't have the $14 million road, I think they're making that offer, I don't see it in here that it definitely includes and is contingent upon that road being there. We're not going to have to build it. They'd have to build it.
Right.
So either which way, we're poised to realize a significant $20 million gain on this. That's the part I don't want to get away from. When I think we have to be very, very diligent in this. We can't dilly-dally. We have to be pretty committed, and at some point, we have to make a decision. I think we got a couple of very, very intriguing offers here. I think we set some guideposts, and we let Wes and Allison go get them, and then we have a special meeting next week. That's my suggestion.
And Jeff, I love you for getting those guidelines and offering that leadership, and I'm fine with that. I just don't know if staff is going to be able to negotiate with Triumph and Rick Harper in a week's time. I mean,
that's not what we need to do. We just need to figure out 60 days to get a definitive agreement, and then during that period, the due diligence period, you work out all those details.
Okay, and so let me respond to that, and I'm sorry, Stephen, I'll give it back because you two have taken the lead. In my mind, there's a distinct difference between just selling the dirt without infrastructure versus selling developed land with infrastructure and roads. Maybe these are great offers on dirt. In my opinion, I doubt you would have my vote if there was $14 million worth of infrastructure to go there. And so, I mean, to me, that's a key. Well, yeah, why not have to see the plan? Yeah, I mean, and that's a part of it, creating the jobs. But I don't know the whole presentation. I don't know if I'm going to know that in a week. I mean, to be honest with you. And then we can come back here in a week. But if those things are unanswered for me, then I would be unprepared. I would not be prepared to make a vote because those things are important. As you said, creation of jobs. I mean, we got to restore the economy. We got to restore the environment always. I mean, so there has to be infrastructure, drainage. There has to be job creation. I mean, there has to be public space, as you say it. But there has to be an ROI for the citizens of all of Escambia County because they put that money up to buy that land, and there was a lot of sweat equity. There was a lot of money that was put there. So, I mean, there needs to be, some type of return on land. And quite frankly, this is the last large spot of land that we have to be able to develop it. I mean, and once this is over, everything's going to go to Santa Rosa and it's going to go to Okaloosa. So we have to create jobs for the least of them. I mean, we have to be able to create light manufacturing jobs, opportunity that our children can stay here in Escambia County. And this is probably going to be the last time that we can bring industry and keep our children here. So I'm like you, the end of the world, it's not the dollar sign because as we increase ad valorem, as our children get jobs, I mean, there's going to be an ROI in the future. But for me, I want to see that, and I agree with you. Let's stay with the master plan. But if it takes me a few more days, a little longer due diligence to get it right, I want to get it right. As you said, Commissioner Berry and I, when we ran for office, this was a discussion. It's been talked about for 30 years. So we want to land it, as best as possible, All right, sorry, Robert.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I think some of my talking points I had were similar to yours, that I think we could get this offer without the $14 million that's already in it. When you look at, we've got 18 and a half in it, and then another 14, then you're already at 32 and a half.
Exactly.
So, granted, the 14 million is not necessarily the county's, but it is money that's invested in the property and.
Well, it's the people's money.
Right, and I would take that into consideration. The other thing is that, I know that the school board has, of course, shown interest in having property at the site. As a school board paying tax member, I would hate to sell all this and then have the school board turn around and spend a lot more than what we could sell it to them for, given the price that we're selling.
Well, I'm not going to give the school board anything. The school board's never given the county.
I'm not saying give it to
They've
them.
never given us a piece of property.
But if the current $38 million offer is about $70,000 an acre.
Right.
And then the school board's got to turn around and buy it from somebody at $100 an acre, $100,000 an acre. We've.
Or they go find some land.
Well, I'm just saying, I'd like to keep that as a consideration.
They were so generous to me. They sold me $3 million worth of land next to
And I
them.
understand that, sir, and that's why I'm not saying I would give it to them, but I do think that anything we could do to help manage those costs for the taxpayers would be the prudent thing to do. But that's in the master
plan already, some public spaces.
No, I understand.
44 acres.
But they would, again, if it saves them, significant amount of money, I think as a, being fiscally responsible for all of our money would be the right thing to do. Especially if, even if we got it at the same price per acre that the developer's gonna buy it from, we're made whole, but they could save significant amount
Well,
of.
that's why we, I didn't mean to cut you off, but let me add, since you're having this, since we're dialoguing, that's why we sold it to pennies on the dollar to Navy Federal for the commitment to public space. The public space has already been committed to on that land. And recreational, public space, the reason we sold to Navy Federal because they made that commitment to, Jeff, to your community. I mean,
that's right.
that was the reason we voted to sell it to them at that price.
At that price, and to point this out, they're making great progress on that, and I've spoke with Kara Cardona, and that's gonna be open soon, and it's gonna be available for the public to use those trails on that new facility on 8. It's gonna be amazing, but back to the point of the school, I'm in full support of a Beulah High School. I've spoken to my counterpart, Kevin Adams. The issues are there, and in speaking with him, he knows that they've gotta pay a market rate. They don't get a freebie. They just don't, and they never will. And the other thing they've got to overcome is, do they have the enrollment? Their enrollment has declined steadily since I was on that board in 2006. It's gone like this, right? For a lot of reasons, and I'm not going to get into the weeds here, but many of us know the reasons why. Meanwhile, Santa Rosa's has gone like this, right? And it ain't no mystery. The teachers there are every bit as good as the teachers here. So I don't know they have the enrollment to justify it. Meanwhile, south of 9 Mile Road, south of the interstate, a lot of those schools are half full. So they got to rebalance some things, right? So we can't spend our time worried about what they might do, what they possibly could do. They're going to pay a market price for it. They're going to pay a market price if they even need it. That's the question. I'm all for a Beulah High School, believe me.
Well, they don't have a middle school in District 3, and we got some land in District 3 they can get for a good price.
So anyway, again, I just think that discussion needs to be a part of this, though. I understand. Just saying. But Jeff, I'd also agree with you that in this case, for me, money is not everything. And to have the commitment to the master plan, to look at other developments is important to make sure that it is what's best for our community in the long run. So I would just, for my vote, money is not everything, and I do think we would have that discretion when we make that vote. So finally, I don't know if, when the last time we appraised the land, and if we would want to, I know that would take some time to get it done, but it might be worth it. And of course, others have said that if we did piecemeal it off, create some demand and do that. I mean, listen, I would really love to sell it off all in one fell swoop and have the windfall, but is it more valuable to sell the area that we want to develop for the commercial and residential areas and withhold the light industrial?
We have the zoning, though. We've got that zoning.
I know we've got the zoning, but I'm saying, is it better financially for us to sell off the parts that are more valuable to the developers and continue to work on the other side as it being, again, that could potentially help with the Triumph grant, that if it's land that we still own.
Yeah, no, and I appreciate those points, and I appreciate the words, but can I point out two things, Robert, to your point to me about, number one, this economy, we all know, and you talk to people that own big businesses, look at the layoffs that are happening right now. There's a lot of uncertainty. They keep printing money like there is no tomorrow, 33 trillion, when we only take in less than 4 a year. This thing, you never know which way it could go. They keep trying to point out that inflation at 6.4% is an improvement. That's not an improvement. That's a terrible situation. Every month we're going up 8%. It's bad. So, we can snatch defeat from the jaws of victory here, or we can make a decision, be decisive, and get a win for the taxpayers in this community. I think we unleash Wes and Allison with our guideposts of what we want. We want jobs. We've all said that. The master plan includes jobs. We want them to work with Triumph. We all want that. But we've got to shorten this due diligence period. 12 months is a non-starter, right? And if we give them the guideposts and let's go get the best price we can get. If we can get a Triumph grant, which I think we can, if one of these companies comes in and says, I'll commit to 500 jobs at $60,000, they're going to get a Triumph grant and we're going to build a public road through that property. just because this one doesn't work, remember, we had one for 29 million. That didn't work either when things evolved and we decided we wanted to do a mixed-use development. Things are going to evolve, but meanwhile, we've got a cash offer on the table for the taxpayers, and we can lock down a win. If you dilly-dally and you dither, you might lose it. So that's where I'm at, Robert.
Sure. I mean, I don't think we're going to get this hammered out in a week.
Why not?
You know, and so,
The
you know.
decision could be hammered out today to get them out negotiating.
No, and that's where, I mean, that's where I was planning to coming in today, was that I knew there wasn't going to be a decision on, especially exclusivity today for me. So, no, I think that's the right, is to allow them to do it, but I think if.
And you also got to bring in your economic development arm. You got to bring Florida West in. I mean, because you got to verify these companies with these jobs. You got to see what industries they have. I mean, because once you sign on the dotted line, it's over. So before you negotiate the deal, I mean, you have to have prospects. I mean, what industry are you bringing in there? Not a hope that we sell you a piece of land for $38 million and we pray that you create jobs. I mean, there has to be something more concrete before you take a vote for the people. I mean, you can do it. You can look at it in concept, but you got to have Triumph on board. You got to have Florida West on board. You got to have our staff on board, and you got to have the developers on board. I mean, because no matter whether we sell it or don't sell it, it's still a public-private project. It will never be a private project. It's a public-private project. And so there's going to have to be public input to make this thing work.
Well, again, I mean, if it's saying that we're going to have potentially 4 offers by the end of the day or the end of the week or whatever, that's great. I mean, we have to do our due diligence to pick the right proposal. And it will take some time to work through the Triumph process and see how these impact those. You know, and just to throw it out there, I am not planning on being here for the March Committee of the Whole for another trip to DC to lobby on behalf of the base.
Is that a fly-in?
That's a fly-in for the chamber's doing it.
Yeah,
So,
all right.
I'm going up with a couple of them.
Well, maybe at our next board meeting, we'll look at that, Robert, because I may do the fly-in. We'll figure it out.
Okay, so I just don't, I'm saying that in the sense that I don't want to have this be put on the March Committee of the Whole and me not be here, so.
Oh, no, we wouldn't dare do that. Commissioner Kohler.
I just want to say a couple things. This is a great problem for us to have. Everyone here is excited. Everything that you're saying is good. But I am going to agree with Commissioner Burgash. Time is of essence. And the reason it's of essence, all you have to do is look around at the tech park down here that's been here for 10 years. And I think if we do not, we should counter, give Wes and Allison amount of time and get back here and cut a deal sooner than later. Because I actually think you could lose it as well if we don't do something right.
Well, I'm not going to tell Wes and not going to go negotiate a deal on my behalf. I mean, they can go in and do the negotiation and bring it back, but we shouldn't be cutting deals. Yeah, we shouldn't be cutting deals. Commissioner Berry.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I mean, the conversation I'd be supportive of leaving today with is just, honestly, just accepting the letters and giving Wes and Allison the direction to begin conversations with both parties, the current 2 parties that we have. You know, as far as setting guideposts for them, just the intent is to move and to move and to act. And, you know, there are going to be a lot of, you know, the definitive, whether you're going to want to call it a definitive agreement or a sales agreement, there are going to be a lot of aspects that are going to go into that. Mm-hmm. And, you know, I don't think that if it takes a little longer than what a normal contract is going to take, I don't think that's a failure. I mean, I think that's being prudent, because there are a lot of boxes to check and make sure that we're doing, you know, what we need to do. You know, the master plan's been referred to a number of times, and I think, you know, all of the board did end up, you know, just kind of acquiescing to, you know, to conversations a couple of years ago, and accepting the master plan that was accepted by the board. And I think all the board understands and is okay with that mixed use aspect on the property, you know, to some degree. But I do not think that it's reasonable to expect the master plan as it sits currently to be what ends up on the ground itself. Just candidly, the Triumph grant that was submitted would have required an altering to the master plan. So it's very likely that the way it sits, the intent, the spirit I think is very, I think there's a lot of legs to the spirit of the master plan. But if it's, I think we all probably need to realize that, you know, if there's 40 acres here for this, that may end up having to move to the west. Or if there's 72 acres here for this, or, you know, if we intended this to be in the, you know, the central part, it may end up in the northern part of the property, this use. I think it's very unreasonable to expect the final outcome is going to fit exactly into that. And, you know, candidly, at the time we approved that, I knew that. Whatever was going to go on the ground, it was going to take some altering. But I do think the board's committed to the spirit of it, and I think we can certainly maintain that spirit. But just literally, even the, excuse me, even the Triumph grant that, you know, all the board is, you know, is very supportive of, that would have, you know, like I said, that would have taken an alteration to it. So, you know, I think just, you know, without putting, you know, necessarily parameters on their discussions, just allow, you know, Wes and Allison, and I do think it's reasonable to, you know, to bring Rick Byers, who's going to stand in, you know, who's going to stand in shoes as chair of Florida West currently. I do think it's reasonable to have, you know, to have Rick even in the conversation, you know, along with Wes and Allison to begin the conversations with these two parties. That's the extent that's the extent of what I really want to support today, rather than trying to put definitive terms on what we want back. These aren't, I mean, what we have in hand, you know, it was referred on, you know, in some places and reported as, you know, accepting an offer today. We're accepting, you know, we're accepting unsolicited letters of interest is all. I mean, the sales agreement's the contract, and that's going to, and we're a long way from that right now. And, you know, hopefully, Jeff, I agree with you. Hopefully, we're not a long way in time, but in substance, we're a long way from it.
Yeah, well, we have a 10-day clock now on both of these.
Oh, I'm not concerned with someone else's timeline.
No.
We'll do the best. We're going to do the best we can.
Yeah, understood, but I'm looking at the calendar, Steve, as I say that, and, you know, I don't think, with all respect to everyone here on this dais, I don't think it should take us a full 10 days to speak with both the parties. They're all watching. They know, I think they know where at least some of us are, and they know where others are, and I think they'll be able to maybe modulate and calibrate their offer. But I just want to put out there as a suggestion, we've got the 27th, which would give the full 10-day period to accept one of those two letters of offer, letters of intent. Who knows what happens between now and then, but should that be something, Mr. Chairman, that we just know as a placeholder?
Well, we can put it as a place. So when's our next meeting?
I believe.
When?
March 2nd.
Well, Jeff, Jeff, if we could do it on March 2nd, I mean, here's my opinion, Jeff, and no one wants to move this quicker than me because, you know, I certainly don't want to be getting my Social Security by the time this thing happens. And, you know, it's drug out for 30 plus years. And, but any developer that's looking at a performer, the 14 million infrastructure, the Triumph grant is going to be a part of the performer. I don't think any of these guys are going to walk away from $14 to $20 million worth of infrastructure if we don't get back with them in 10 days. I mean,
so we got to condense all this down to something we can all support this morning. So Stephen, is it let them go negotiate with these two without any guideposts? Is that what it has to be?
Let them begin conversations.
And that's the extent of it.
Because I agree with him.
I can support that.
I trust both of. I mean, both of them have the ability to speak with each of us.
Yep.
And I trust that, you know, it's. I mean, it's one reason why I think they both do. I think they both do a very good job. They, you know, they lead with direction. You know, they're both willing to lead, but they lead with the direction of the board, not lead on their own.
Right.
And that's not always been the case. I don't think from either position on the dais.
That's true.
Historically, so. I'm comfortable with their ability to interact with the board and to interact in good faith and with
anything
the
they
intent of the
negotiate, they're going to bring back to us.
And it doesn't limit them, Jeff. You know, I mean, the developer may have, I mean, looking at, and I agree with you, the master plan, but it's just like drawing any set of construction documents. It looks one way in color, in print, and by the time you put it on the ground, it's never the way your wife thought the house was going to look. Well, I mean, so that's the way
if that moves us off dead center, Steve, if that's your motion, I will second it. Is that your motion?
Yeah, my motion is to formally accept acknowledge that we're in receipt of these letters of intent and to direct the administrator and the attorney to begin conversations
Okay.
with both
And-
parties.
But not
Second.
limited to those two, correct, Steve?
No, yeah, non-exclusive, correct?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
this
if
is not-
somebody else wants to submit, they can submit.
Okay,
Yeah.
I'll second that motion.
So before we vote, one quick question, Allison. I mean, do we have to have would we have to establish an RFP? Or can we just accept offers, and would we have to have public hearings on any of those offers?
No, so you did actually do an RFP last year. It was open for, I believe, several months, and I don't believe it drew any interest that I'm aware of, no submittals that I'm aware of. You do have very broad latitude with regards to your home rule economic development powers. In fact, just to remind you, you've already sold 94 acres under your economic development powers to Navy Federal. That's that first hunk of this OLF 8 that you already conveyed. So I am very comfortable that you can certainly entertain and enter into an agreement with one of these, presuming that they are going to meet some metrics related to economic development that are
Correct.
deemed as
It couldn't be
important.
all residential housing, apartment. It has to be economic development.
You have some ability to find what constitutes that economic development. Obviously, the Triumph piece is a big, I mean, that's a helper right there as far as legislative determinations. It doesn't have to be the only one. But we would anticipate that if the idea is to not do a new RFP, that we would bring back a resolution making legislative findings of what that economic development foundation is, if you're wanting to enter into a purchase sales agreement with one of these or with another one, presuming that you are of the opinion that it meets some of those metrics.
Sounds good to me.
Please vote. All right. So we do have one, two, we do have two speakers, and that's where we're at now. Wes?
So do we want to move 1 and 3 then? Is that?
County Attorney's report.
Oh, county attorney's report, okay.
There are 3 items on the county attorney's report. I don't know if you have speakers, but I can
Yeah,
certainly.
we do.
Okay, I can answer any questions
Are they
on.
both on 2?
Yeah, both on two. We can move one. We can accept the motion on 1 and 3.
So moved.
Second.
Sorry,
I did.
I didn't hear that motion.
I'll make the motion, move 1 and 3.
Yeah, I made the motion to move items 1 and 3.
Okay,
Second.
thank you.
We can vote. That passes 5 in favor. Wes, whoever's doing the negotiating with the, that's the ATU, correct? Yeah. Okay.
This is an impasse hearing, so we.
Who's representing them?
My understanding is that Mike Lowry will be representing the ATU at the impasse hearing.
So, I mean, I want to publicly say, and I spent a lot of time over at ECAT, that obviously, they have not gotten a raise. The impasse brings about really a problem that I'm hoping that we can get this resolved.
Commissioner, we addressed wages. That's one of the first things I did when I stepped into this role, and one of the first 1 or 2 negotiating sessions we had with the ATU regarding ECAT, and we did increase wages at that time, and we did increase entry-level rates for retainment and recruitment. So we have done that.
But what's on the floor now? Is there
There-
4% that they've not gotten? Are they 3? What
There's
is
a
it?
4% on the table. It's part of our proposal to the ATU. Ratification of the contract would enact that 4%.
Okay, well, I'm hoping, and I say this to all my friends at ECAT and Rodriguez, you can convey that we hope that we can resolve this, because they do deserve to get the 4%, and I'm going to push everything in my power to get that done. So, and Wes, I know you will too. We have 2 speakers. Recommendation concerning the operational audit of Escambia County use of tourist development, TD TDT collections. First speaker will be Mr. David Bear.
Excuse me. Good morning again. Thank you. I wanted to just address this resolution that is being proposed today. It was posted last night or yesterday at some point. As first I saw it, I asked for it a couple days ago, and it wasn't prepared yet. I wish the TDC had an opportunity to review it and discuss it. According to the resolution, essentially the county is creating what is called a nature center for all of the waterways in Escambia County. It includes Pensacola Beach, Santa Rosa Island Authority, Perdido Key, and all inland waterways in around the county to create a nature center. And the resolution depends on the Attorney General's report, an opinion, and that opinion says it's a specific, that the nature center would appear that an area on a river be designated as a nature center, not the entire waterways of Escambia County. And so I think it completely undermines the law if the county just says that preserving waterways in general is a tourism development. I think that's the AGO's opinion does not say you can create a nature center throughout all of the waterways. It's a specific defined area. And by doing this, what I think is happening by undermining the statute and the use of the tourist development tax is it's just creating an opportunity to supplant expenses by using TDT. And so this is an outcome, this resolution is an outcome from the Florida Auditor General's report saying these uses that have, that were in their report were unauthorized under the statute for different reasons. One, they were used with the wrong penny, or they may not fully be used for development of tourism. By creating this overarching nature center, it's saying anything within any of the waterways, any expenditure used within them will be a tourist promotional item. And that's undermining what the statute says. The statute is very specific on what it can be used for, and the Auditor General, the Attorney General's opinion that is listed in this resolution talks about it being a specific part of a river, so not all of the waterways. So I would like you to reconsider this resolution and refine it. I think it's important to have nature centers. I think the tourist development tax can help support different things in different ways within a nature center, but to create an overarching nature center is unreasonable, and I think it undermines the statute.
And you said your request was that we send it back to the TDC?
Well, I'd like the TDC to have the opportunity to review something that affects what we do. We're created by statute to make recommendations for tourist development, and to create a nature center without even discussing it with TDC is sort of like, well, we don't care what you do. We're just going to do it ourselves, because you guys do have the ultimate authority on spending the money and creating the nature center and defining what is the county believes is tourism development. But you've appointed a board to review these things, to have these discussions, and to do this outside of that whole process is just, it is what it is.
Mr. Chairman,
it is what it looks like.
Perhaps we send it to the TDC. I sit on that board, and we consider it. I hear your point. You've got citizen volunteers that serve on that board, and if we don't consider their input, what's the point of having them? And then they get disgruntled, and then we have a hard time filling people on the board. So my motion is we drop it today, send it to the TDC for our consideration and of that board, and we take that input, and then we make a final decision. And if that requires Allison to retool it, then so be it. We have her retool it. That's my motion.
Okay.
Second.
Second, for discussion, we got speakers, we still have speakers,
yeah,
and Commissioner Bender wants to
yeah.
speak. And then I had a question for Allison. Allison, why wasn't it just sent over to the T? I mean,
I was just trying to effectuate what I believe to be the auditor's guidance in trying to come into compliance. But I work for you guys, so however speedily you want to work with this. There's a second part to this, which is that there are some changes to the ordinance language that also need to happen. If you guys want to schedule that for March the 23rd, I believe we could have it ready by then. If you want to slow it down, that's fine. Whatever, I defer to you.
okay, well, there's a motion on the floor right now. Are you done?
I'm done speaking, but if you have questions.
Yeah. So David, I hear what you're saying, right? It sounds like you're saying that the waterways shouldn't be a nature center, but the beach, the Santa Rosa Island could be.
I'm saying a portion of the island authority could be a nature center, but I think that's a large geographic area that's not necessarily a nature center there's no definition in the statute.
So I would
and that Attorney General's opinion states that there is no definition of what a nature center is, but that opinion says it's a specific defined area. It doesn't say it's the whole area.
So I will say was a route that the auditors suggested that we go. This was exactly what they suggested was to do this. It would still.
I disagree. But
No,
they
I
didn't
mean,
say that you should create all your waterways.
No, that's what they said.
Okay, well, not in their final report.
Maybe not in the final report, but they did say it. And so it would still have to meet all the other requirements for spending, though. It would allow it, though, in those areas. But it would still have to meet all the other requirements, and the uses and things like that would still have to meet. It would just be that because it's a nature center that it would be eligible for those.
For additional
Yes.
expenditures.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Jeff, would you mind just for protocol, rescinding that motion, because we should have held all our public speakers, and that'd be unfair to mail if we did that. And so then, discussion should be among board members once a motion is made.
Absolutely, I rescind my motion.
Rescind a second, okay.
Thank you.
Okay.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mel Pino, sorry for the long wait, Mel.
Thank you, Chairman. It's nice of you to take an interest in the public input. This isn't even about, it's about this item. I can't add anything to what the chair of the Tourism Development Council has to say on the ordinance, but I've got two primary concerns that have to do with this item. And the one is to just beg simply that 3 commissioners please take an interest in having a discussion with your administrator, that you guys stop bringing all these important items at the last minute on the day before. I guess it's none of our business, right? When I'm like on the phone for 2 hours before the meeting on stuff that I just found out about, well, it doesn't matter because I don't really need to know, and my opinion doesn't matter, or the public or anything else, right? And I agree with Teresa on this. That was really unfair to not have that on the agenda when everybody knew it was going to pop on, and then 67 mil on grants. And now this, when everyone knew that it was coming, it was on the agenda, so why did it take so long for this document to hit? What's my concern? Collateral damage legally. My husband and I have spent, nobody forced us, we're coming on $40,000 to protect Navy Point Park now from a bad commissioner. It wasn't y'all's fault. We had to deal with Doug. But just as we're breathing a sigh of relief on his bogus thing that he was always going to do, which was to create a special district around District 2 waterways, which we were ready to fight legally. I haven't had a chance to talk to my land use attorneys about this. I don't know what doing this with this TDT ordinance will mean for our shorelines. You guys are in one ordinance, you're just going to create this nature center. What does that mean then for land use? Is there collateral damage land use that now I got to be worried about right at the time that I'm finally breathing a sigh of relief that our park isn't going to get developed? Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I might.
Yes, sir.
Melissa, I would simply say, and to David Bear as well, I understand why Allison Rogers did do this. We had the Florida Auditor General's report, and I think that could be our fault, because I know that I've asked her in every one of my weekly meetings, let's get that ordinance cleaned up so that we are in full compliance. The great thing about that audit report was it pointed out some things where we can improve, and that's a good thing. The great thing that it also pointed out is we didn't have to reimburse any money. So I'll own that. Yeah, I've been pushing. I wanted it. But now, it does make sense for the TDC to have their voices heard and get to weigh in. And at the end of it all, will come out an ordinance that hopefully we can all agree with. So again, I make the same motion, Mr. Chairman, that we drop it, allow the TDC to consider it, make their comments, and any revisions, bring it forward for our final consideration and action. That's my motion.
Please vote. Passes 5 in favor. Madam Attorney.
That concludes my report.
So the protocol for this, Allison, we would send it to the TDC, then it will come back to us. And what about the other part that you got to clean up? You said the other ordinances?
I presume the whole item is on hold, so I'm waiting for direction on what you'd like to do with that.
I think you send it to the TDC, send it to the chairman. He'll bring it to a board meeting, and we'll discuss it, and then we'll bring it back. And then whatever this board votes on, you make those changes, and then we vote on the final.
Okay.
That's clear enough? That's clear. Wes, anything else? We stand adjourned.